This is nice. Actually, for us, because we are expats, so we have to move according to our jobs. Wherever we are getting good opportunity, we have to move accordingly. So when I resided in Abu Dhabi, I was having a good job over there. Once I got a good opportunity here, then I moved here. So, but in Abu Dhabi, the good thing is that it's quite a developed one. And as being the capital of UAE, they are offering more facilities as compared to Ajman.
Yes.
But for us who are doing jobs, every place is the same because we have to follow the same routine. 9 to 5, we have to work, and after that, we have to go straight away at home. So we are not having any kind of difficulty because we do not have to go outside. No entertainment, nothing. But you people should not be doing that. Once you are going to become the professionals as well, do not forget to enjoy your lives. It's not a good thing. Yesterday, I was telling Abdullah also that I'm going to the doctor these days because I'm having this neck stiffness and shoulder pain. And he told me only one thing, that you need to be more active. You need to walk, you need to do exercise. Nowadays, our lifestyle, because of these mobile phones and because of these technologies, it has a lot of drawbacks. So only when we are going to change our lifestyle, these things are not going to hurt us. Otherwise, it's not good. Anyhow, as you do know that today we are going to discuss about our third subject, that is financial accounting. The old name for this subject has been F3. So now also at most of the places you are going to call it with the same name, F3. Okay. Now the new name for this subject is FA, financial accounting. Okay. Now please tell me, are you both coming through FIA route or the ACCA one? Directly to the ACCA? And what about you? Directly to the ACCA? Yeah. No, not this one. Not this route.
FIA diploma we are talking about, right?
Yes, actually there are two routes basically from which the students can come to ACCA. Those who have passed their 12th grade, they can directly enroll to ACCA. Those who have not passed their 12th grade, they can simply follow the FIA route. The same books you are going to study, the same subjects you are going to study, the same exam you are going to give, but you will be called to be as having an FIA diploma. Okay, this is Foundation in Accountancy diploma. And then you will be given straight away 3 exemptions in the ACCA paper and you will be enrolling in F4 afterwards. Anyhow, whether you are enrolled in FIA or ACCA directly, the same books, same study text, same revision, everything is the same. Okay. So if you are enrolled in FIA, then the subject name is FFA. In FIA, we call it as FFA, and in ACCA, we do call it as FA. This is the only difference. Otherwise, all the things are the same. What is the exam pattern for this subject? Again, the same exam pattern which we are going to follow in the case of the management accounting. For management accounting and financial accounting, the exam pattern is the same one. It is again going to be a computer-based on-demand exam like BT and your MA exam. You are going to book it anytime during the year. You can attempt it at any time during the year. There are no specific exam windows which you have to follow in order to give these exams. Now come to the exam pattern. What has been the exam pattern for management accounting? We have 2 sections, sections A and section B. In section A, we do have multiple choice questions, or simply we do call all of those as the short questions, including one is 70 marks and the other section is 30 marks. Yes, you are very right. So in the first section, we are going to have the short questions, which includes multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks, true or false, or select the most appropriate answer one, okay, which you are already aware. So we are going to have 2 marks each questions. Each of the question will be getting 2 marks in total of 35 questions you are going to see in your section 1. So section A in total will be getting off to 70 marks in total. Then we have section 2. In section number 2, we will be facing multiple task questions, which are in the form of scenario. A brief scenario will be given to you. You have to read that scenario carefully. You have to analyze that scenario. And from that scenario, few questions will be asked to you. And then you have to answer those questions in the light of that scenario. 3 multiple task questions will be given to you, each carrying 10 marks. So this is your section 2. So the total of the section 2 is of 30 marks. So 70 plus 30, 100 marks in total. Again, the passing percentage is 50%. If you are going to gain 50%, you are going to pass your exam. Otherwise, God forbid, you will fail and you have to attempt the exam again. No, you are going to come at my office, you are going to weep, and after that you can go home. If you are going to get 85 or above marks, you will be given a certificate, merit certificate from ACCA as well. Okay, so you should be heading towards that merit certificate. Do not think about failing the exam. Inshallah, you are not going to fail. So 2 hours will be given to you in order to attempt the exam. As I told in the case of BT and management accounting, these 2 hours are more than enough. You will be eligible, you will be able to finish your exam much before time. I'm telling you, if you are going to follow my guidelines, there is no way, if Allah's wish is there, obviously we cannot negate that, you will not be failing, okay, inshallah. So now we are going to start with our lecture number 1. Same like BT and management accounting, we are going to follow the same pattern of studying in financial accounting as well. We are going to follow the Kaplan Publishers Kit and study text for financial accounting. Now, before to starting this lecture number 1, let me just tell you what is the overall subject of financial accounting. What are we actually going to study in this one? Yesterday, I told you about management accounting. It's a kind of an accounting which we do in order to aid or help the management of the organization to plan, decide, and control about the organization. The management accounting is used within the organization. It is for internal use. Management accounts are never going to be published for outsiders. जो outsiders है ना organization के बाहर, उनके लिए कोई use नहीं है management accounting का. और वो confidential information है organization की. Management accounting is for only the management of the organization so that they can take a help for planning, decision making, and controlling for the organization. Financial accounting is for the external users of the organization. Specifically for the external users of the organization, financial accounting is present. Financial accounts are used by the management of the organization or can be used by the management of the organization and by everyone else who wants to know about the financial well-being of a business. मैं आप कोई भी बंदा अगर जानना चाहता है कि कोई बिजनेस कैसा रन कर रहा है तो जो पहली चीज हम लोग देखेंगे वो उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स होंगे. Who are we? We are the users of the financial statements. हम लोग फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग के अंदर क्या लर्न करते हैं? हम तमाम के तमाम रिकॉर्ड्स बनाना लर्न करते हैं यहाँ पर जो कि पब्लिश होते हैं एनुअल. 1 साल के अंदर लाजमी है लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी कंपनीज के लिए कि वो पब्लिश करें अपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स ताकि यूजर्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स देख सके कि एक बिजनेस कैसे रन कर रहा है. अब आप लोग डायरेक्टली फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाना नहीं शुरू कर सकते हो. अगर आपको कोई कहे फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाना शुरू कर दो, आज ही मैं आपको बताना शुरू कर दूं, नहीं कर सकते. व्हाई? बिकॉज यू आर जस्ट ऑन द बॉटम ऑफ दिस सब्जेक्ट. You do not know anything about this subject. So we are going to take you hand in hand from the scratch up to the financial statements. What we do need to learn ultimately to prepare financial statements. Our agenda of learning this subject is that we should be able to make the financial statements, whether those are for single entity or for consolidated entities. When you will be facing your exam of financial accounting, the last 2 questions, in this subject, there is a difference in exam pattern. In the last part, in section B, you are going to have 2 questions. 2 multiple task questions. You are going to face 15 marks each. There is a slight difference. Now, those 2 questions are in regards with the financial statements. Whether you will be required to prepare one of the financial statements, anyone. And one question will be requiring you to prepare the consolidated set of financial statements. The remaining questions in section A will be for the general concepts, which we are going to study all the way long in this semester. So we will be learning that what is the purpose of the financial accounting. We will learn that how the basic accounting records are going to be prepared, leading to the preparation of the financial statements. एक चीज जो कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के अंदर आती है उसका एक रूल है, वो एक रूल एंड रेगुलेशन के मुताबिक रिपोर्ट होगी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट के अंदर, और वो हर जो लाइन आइटम है उसके पीछे स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं. We need to learn standards, international accounting standards, international financial reporting standards, which tells us that how are we going to report all the items in our financial statements. We generally know that what do we report in our accounting records? We do report our expenses, we do report our income, we do report our liabilities, we do report shareholders' equity, we do report our any of the what we can say cost. So these items, we generally know that we have to make the records in the organization for these items. But how are we going to make the records for them? We are going to learn about this. Now in the chapter 1, similarly like management accounting, we are going to learn about some introductory terms. In this chapter, you are going to learn that where the financial accounting is required and why is it required. Okay, so this is the overview of this subject. You now know that what basically you are ultimately going to learn in this subject. Clear? Now, lecture number 1 is starting by the introduction of the business entities. When we have taken the first lecture of BT and MA, we have discussed about the meaning of the business organizations. Do you remember about commercial organizations? What is an organization? According to Buchanan and Heisinski, it's a social arrangement for the controlled performance for collective goals. So that is the definition of organization. Now the organization can be a commercial organization or a non-commercial organization. We are specifically going to learn about the accounting for commercial organizations. What are commercial organizations? Commercial organizations are also known as business organizations. All those organizations which are made up for the purpose of earning profit are known as commercial organizations. तमाम तर वो organizations जो कि बनाई जाती हैं इस objective और agenda के साथ कि हम लोग profit earn करेंगे, वो क्या कहलाती हैं? Business organizations. हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि business organization के अंदर कभी loss होगा ही नहीं. बात ये है कि हम मकसद देखें, objective देखें. Objective अगर बनाने का profit earn करना है तो वो क्या है? Business organization. If you can recall the concepts, you must be remembering that we have learned about 3 types of the business entities or business organizations: sole proprietorship or sole tradership, partnerships, and limited liability companies. These 3 are the basic forms of the business organizations. Now, what is a sole proprietorship?
Single owner.
Single owner. Sole means one. It is also known as one-man show. When there is one person on it and primarily controlling and managing the operations of the business, this sort of the business is known as a sole proprietorship or sole tradership business. So only one person will be owning and primarily controlling this sort of the business. Then we have partnership.
2 or more than 2.
Very good. When 2 or more than 2 persons are owning and managing the business, this type of the business is known as partnership. In sole proprietorship and partnership, no separate legal entity concept exists. In the eyes of law, whether it is sole proprietorship or a partnership, they are considered as one. Both of these are not considered as one. I mean, sole proprietorship is not the different from its owners. Its owners and this business are considered as one. It means that there will be unlimited liability in the case of sole proprietorships and partnerships. Unlimited liability means that if the business is having any debts or obligations on it, and if the assets or resources of the business are not enough to fulfill those obligations, the personal property of the owners will be used to fulfill those liabilities and obligations. अगर business के ऊपर कोई कर्जा हो जाता है और कर्जा मांगने वाले आ जाते हैं, और अगर आप sole proprietorship और partnership business run कर रहे हो, तो आपको अपनी personal property sale करके वो कर्जा उतारना पड़ेगा, because हाँ, वरना आप खुद जिम्मेदार हो। अब इसके अंदर कोई separate legal entity नहीं है। In the eyes of law, the owners and the business itself are one entity. Clear? Now come to the concept of the limited liability company. As its name is suggesting, in limited liability company, the liability of the owners, liability of the shareholders is limited up to the amount of shares. This is important. When students do learn the concept of limited liability company, they do forget that liability is limited up to the amount of shares. Sometimes in the multiple choice questions, they ask you. It means that if the business is having any kind of liability, the amount which has been given as to purchase the shares can be used to pay the obligations. जो आपने shares purchase करने के लिए पैसे दे दिए हैं ना, वो use हो सकती है, ठीक है? लेकिन personal property अगर कोई shareholders के owners के नाम पर है, वो use नहीं होगी in order to fulfill the obligations of the business. In the case of limited liability companies, the concept of separate legal entity exists. The business is a separate thing and the persons who have formed the business are separate. Got it? अब ये चीज क्यों important है understand करने के लिए कि आपका जो business है वो separate है और आप खुद owners जिन्होंने बनाया है वो separate है. क्यों जरूरी है financial accounting के point of view से understand करने के लिए? क्योंकि जब आप लोग अकाउंट्स बनाओगे तो आप लोग बिजनेस के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बनाओगे, ऑनर्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से नहीं बनाओगे. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट. जब आप अकाउंट्स बनाते हो ना तो आप ये सोचते हो कि आप बिजनेस हो, ना आपने सोचना है आप अकाउंटेंट हो, ना आपने सोचना है आप शेयर होल्डर हो, आप कुछ नहीं, आप बिजनेस हो. आप लोग अकाउंटिंग इस हिसाब से करोगे कि बिजनेस में क्या आ रहा है और बिजनेस से क्या जा रहा है. अगर आप शेयर होल्डर बन के रिकॉर्ड करना शुरू करोगे तो आप सोचोगे हमारी जेब में क्या आ रहा है, हमारी जेब से क्या जा रहा है. ऐसे ही है ना, आप लोगों ने रिकॉर्ड करना है इस हिसाब से, ये सोच के कि आप बिजनेस हो, बिजनेस में क्या आ रहा है, बिजनेस से क्या जा रहा है. Got it? This is basic concept in financial accounting. When we tell students about the concept of the separate legal entity, over there they must be clear about this concept as well. So whenever you are going to record the accounting records, you have to consider that you yourself are the business, you are not the accountant, you are not the owner. Got it? Now, these are the basic concepts regarding limited liability company. Now, one more thing. As per law, for sole proprietorship and partnership, there is no obligation to prepare the financial statements. If these businesses are preparing their financial statements, it's well and good. It's a good thing. But if they are not making their financial statements and not publishing them, it's not mandatory by law to produce those. For limited liability company, it's mandatory. If it's public limited liability company, it's mandatory, it's compulsory for them to produce and publish the financial statements once in a year, so that users of the financial statements can understand about the financial health of a company. Cleared? Now, if the financial statements preparation is not necessary, it means that further audit will not be necessary for sole tradership and partnership businesses. Do you know external audit? External audit is also not necessary to be done for sole proprietorship and partnership in most of the jurisdictions. And for limited liability company audit, external audit is also necessary. Now,
उससे ये होता है कि अगर आपने के ऑडिट वाले वो सही निकाले तो दोबारा वाले सारा निकाल दो.
क्या मतलब, सॉरी?
एक्सटर्नल जो ऑडिट आप कह रही हैं, अगर कंपनी के अपने ऑडिटर्स की गलती है तो वो लोग निकाल दें.
हम लोग इसको डिस्कस करेंगे डिटेल में, क्योंकि ये पूरा सब्जेक्ट है. आप लोगों ने F8 जो पढ़ना है उसके अंदर पूरा ये है. ठीक है, उसके बाद ये बीटी के अंदर भी आप एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट का एक पूरा टॉपिक है, हम लोग उसके अंदर डिस्कस करेंगे इसे डिटेल में। बेसिकली गलतियां, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर का भी काम नहीं है गलतियां निकालना, उसका काम, ये गलत फहमी है हमारी कि एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर का काम है गलतियां निकालना। उसका सिर्फ ये काम है कि वो एक एश्योरेंस दे, वो एक जिम्मेदारी के साथ एक ओपिनियन दे कि उसकी ओपिनियन के मुताबिक क्या फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स एक ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू पेश कर रही हैं कि नहीं कर रही। उसकी सिर्फ ये जिम्मेदारी है, उसकी ये जिम्मेदारी नहीं कि वो एरर्स और फ्रॉड्स को डिटेक्ट करे। प्रिवेंशन और डिटेक्शन ऑफ एरर्स एंड फ्रॉड जिम्मेदारी है डायरेक्टर्स ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की। तो वो क्यों जरूरी है वो हम लोग ये सारा का सारा डिस्कस करेंगे, अभी बहुत अर्ली है ये चीज डिस्कस करने के लिए। Anyhow, now students, as I have told you that we are learning the preparation of the financial statements in this subject. So it is leading, accounting is leading towards the preparation of the financial statements. There are 4 financial statements which limited liability companies must have to prepare. What are those 4 financial statements? Statement of cash flow, statement of changes in equity, statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. The full name of it is statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, and statement of financial position. Statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income is also known as income statement. Statement of financial position is also known as balance sheet. So when you are going to search on the Google, if you are finding the interchangeable terms, do not be confused. 4 important financial statements are these, and this is your agenda to be learned in this subject. You will be leading towards these. Together with these 4 financial statements, when you are publishing the financial statements, one more important thing is being published, that is notes to the financial statements. These are also known as disclosure notes. When there is some information in the financial statements which needs to be elaborated, which needs details, we are going to note them in our disclosure notes. Users of the financial statements को चाहिए information financial health के बारे में business की। अगर कोई ऐसी चीज है जो कि स्टेटमेंट्स के अंदर लिखी गई है लेकिन फर्दर उसकी डिटेल्स चाहिए हो, वो हम लोग नोट्स टू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के अंदर लिखेंगे। इसके अलावा कोई ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन जो कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में नहीं लिखी गई, लेकिन अगर उसको हम नहीं बयान करेंगे तो यूजर्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को कम इंफॉर्मेशन मिलेगी, वो भी हमने लिखनी है नोट्स टू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। इसके बाद कोई भी अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसीज जो हमने फॉलो की हैं in order to make the financial statements, we follow policies. Also, those policies have to be mentioned in the notes to the financial statements. Again, this is important question. From past so many years, this question is being repeated. That which things are going to be mentioned in the notes to the financial statements. So, there's 3 things I have mentioned. Those things which are already written in the financial statements but needs further elaboration. Those things which are not present in the financial statements, but for the understandability of the users, it is necessary to report. We do write it. Third thing, accounting policies which we have followed in order to write the line items in our financial statements. Clear up to here? These financial statements, together with the notes to the financial statements, become the part of the annual report. Annual report is annually published, and the users of the financial statements have a look at that, and they can analyze about the financial health of a business. बच्चों, आप लोगों ने परेशान नहीं होना कि मिस ऐसी टर्म्स यूज कर रही हैं जो कि हमें बिल्कुल पता नहीं है। The only purpose for using these jargons is that with the passage of time, you will become very familiar with these terms. Okay? Sometimes in the books, in your general books, you are not going to find these statements, these kind of keywords. Say, for example, I have used the term annual reports. But because in the higher studies, these terms are again going to be used. So it's good for you if you are going to learn about these terms right now. Okay? Now, as I told you that our purpose is to learn about the preparation of these financial statements, but straight away in the organizations, we cannot prepare the financial statements. Why? Because these will be prepared once in a year. Normally, once in a year, these will be produced. But on the daily basis, the transactions are happening in the business. We are purchasing, we are selling something, we are taking the liabilities, we are purchasing assets. So on the daily basis, transactions are happening in the business. So we cannot prepare the financial statements on the daily basis. On the daily basis, we have to prepare our basic accounting records. Our basic accounting records are being prepared on the daily basis, leading towards the preparation of the financial statements finally. साल के एंड के ऊपर हम लोगों ने तमाम जो हमारे डेली रिकॉर्ड्स होते हैं उनको इकट्ठा करते हैं और हम लोग उनको समराइज करके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाते हैं. We do say the general definition of an accounting is that accounting is an art of recording, classifying, and summarizing the financial transactions so that users of the financial statements can analyze them. Or we do say that the art of recording, classifying, and summarizing financial transactions for the use of the stakeholders. Now, stakeholders is a new term for you. Who are stakeholders? All the persons who are interested in the business or business activities are stakeholders. Management is also a stakeholder, whoever is interested in the business. Management, employees, government, customers, banks, financial institutions, suppliers, creditors, anyone who is having any kind of interest in the business is known as a stakeholder. Shareholders are also the stakeholders of the business. So why are we going to record, classify, and summarize the transactions? So that those stakeholders can look at the business reports and can analyze about the health of a business. Clear? So they say accounting consists of two elements: recording, summarizing. But they are missing one thing over here: recording, classifying, and summarizing. When we do take the name of the summarizing, it's the final stage in financial accounting. Summarizing means preparing the financial statements. It means that before to summarizing, we have two more stages: recording and classifying. We are going to learn from the stage of recording. We will learn that how then we can classify, and then we will learn that how can we summarize these transactions. On one hand, we have management accounts, which I told that these are only for the purpose of internal use. On the other hand, we have financial statements, which are for internal and external use both. जबकि मैनेजमेंट को भी प्लानिंग करनी है ना बिजनेस के बारे में, तो वो भी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को देखेंगे. ठीक है, अब मैनेजमेंट तो इनसाइड द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इसलिए हम लोग कहते हैं कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स प्राइमरीली फॉर एक्सटर्नल यूजर्स बट कैन बी यूज्ड बाय द इंटरनल यूजर्स एज well. Is everyone clear about this slide? If any confusion is there, please do not hesitate to ask. Okay. Now, students, now they are telling you about the stakeholders. We do say, what did I tell you? That accounting is an art of which three things?
Recording.
Very good. First is recording. Classifying.
Summarizing.
Very good. And summarizing
financial data
for the purpose of analysis. Why are we doing these three things?
For the purpose of analysis.
For the purpose of analysis. And who are going to do this analysis? Users of the financial statements. Who are the users of the financial statements, which I told as stakeholders? Who are stakeholders? All those persons who are having any kind of interest in the business activities are known as stakeholders. Now over here, they are telling you who are the different stakeholders of the business. Whoever is a stakeholder will be the user of the financial statement. जो भी यूजर है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का, वो ऑब्वियसली इसीलिए फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को देख रहा है क्योंकि उसका कोई ना कोई इंटरेस्ट है बिजनेस के अंदर. से फॉर एग्जांपल इन्वेस्टर्स, दोज हु आर potential investors of the business or who have already invested in the business will tend to know about the business transactions. जिन्होंने पहले ही इन्वेस्ट कर दिया है वो जानना चाहेंगे आया उनकी इन्वेस्टमेंट सिक्योर है कि नहीं है. If say, for example, I have invested in a certain company, I will be interested in my dividend. I have to take a return on that investment. Whether my investment is safe or not, I have to look with the help of the financial statements. Clear? Those who are potential investors, if I'm seeking to invest somewhere, and if say, for example, I think that I have to invest in Nestle. So obviously the first step will be to look at the financial statements of Nestle, that if I will be investing over there, whether the market growth of my shares is going to happen or not, or whether on the other hand, dividends are going to be paid to me or not. Then customers are also stakeholders. They will be using the financial statements. Why? What is the interest of the customers in the financial statements? They will be looking about the overall financial health of the business because they are interested in the quality of the goods which is being provided to them. Moreover, they are interested to know the value for money. Whatever they are purchasing from the company, whether it is according to the price or not. अगर price को ज़्यादा pay कर रहे हैं जबकि quality जो वो receive कर रहे हैं वो कम है, obviously they will be very hurt. Then we have suppliers. Those persons who are supplying the goods, supplying the items to the organization will also be interested to know about the financial health of the business. Why? If say, for example, they have supplied the things on credit to the business. Selling on credit means उधार पे उन्होंने sell किया है business को कुछ. Credit means उधार पर sell किया है. अगर किसी ने उधार पे कुछ sell किया है business को, obviously उसको अपने पैसे चाहिए. Whether business is able to return that money or not, they are going to see from the financial statements. Similarly, lenders, those persons who have given any kind of loan to the business, especially banks or financial institutions, will be interested in their interests they have to take. On the other hand, they have to take the principal amount back from the business as well. So they will be interested to know about the financial health of a business. Then we have government. Government introduces the policies or the laws which the businesses have to follow. So they will be also interested in the business activities. They are going to get the basic knowledge from the financial statements. Competitors, those who are competing with your business in the market, will be interested to know about your business because of the benchmarking purpose. They will be compare their results with the business of yours. So competitors are also interested, general public, like you, me, any other person will be slightly interested to know about the financial health of any business, but they will also be interested. Employees obviously have to take the remuneration, salaries, bonuses, commissions, any kind of the remuneration and benefits which they have to take from the business. Obviously, it's dependent upon the financial health of a business. So they will also be interested to know about the financial statements. Management, look, the name of the management also has come. Now, management is present inside the boundaries of the organization because they have to plan for the future. In the light of the existing financial health of a business, they will make the future plans. Got it? So all these persons are users of the financial statements for whom we are preparing the financial statements. We are going to do these 3 tasks in the financial accounting. We are going to record the transactions. We will then classify them and summarize them. Why? For the purpose of the analysis by the users of the financial statements. And who are the users? These are stakeholders, and we have discussed all of these. Cleared?
Yes.
Now, understanding number 1, our favorite part. Which of the following users do you think require the most detailed financial information to be available to them? Now, the stakeholders which are provided in front of you, all of them are interested in the interested to know about the financial health of a business. Am I right? Competitors, management of the business, trade unions, investors, all these are users of the financial statements. इन सबके सबको information चाहिए business के बारे में, लेकिन कौन से stakeholder को most detailed information चाहिए? समीरा बताएगी. Investors. No.
Management of the business.
Very good. Management of the business. Management of the business does require the most detailed information since they have to plan, decide, and control about the activities of the business. So correct answer is management of the business. All of these are going to require the information, but most detailed information is required by the management. Clear?
Yes.
Clear? So we know investors को भी चाहिए information, लेकिन इतनी detailed नहीं चाहिए. तो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में तो फाइनेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन ही होती है ना, नॉन फाइनेंशियल तो होती ही नहीं है. तो सबको फाइनेंशियल ही चाहिए. फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग के अंदर वी हैव ओनली फाइनेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन. In management accounts, we have financial and non-financial information. Okay, so all of these does require. देखो competitors को कुछ चीजों के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए होगी. बिजनेस के प्रॉफिट या प्रॉफिट मार्जिन, सेल्स रेवेन्यू, कुछ चीजों के बारे में. ट्रेड यूनियंस को अपने लिहाज से, ट्रेड यूनियंस क्या सोचेंगी कि क्या ये जरूरत से ज्यादा तो पैसा नहीं अर्न कर लेने लगे, ये सेल्स रेवेन्यू पर यूनिट इनका कम कितना है, मार्केट के मुताबिक है कि नहीं है. इन्वेस्टर्स जिस इंफॉर्मेशन के अंदर इंटरेस्टेड होंगे वो क्या है, कैश फ्लो, प्रॉफिट, क्योंकि उन्होंने तो डिविडेंड लेना है, डिविडेंड से अलावा उनको कोई गर्ज नहीं है बिजनेस में. जबकि मैनेजमेंट उन्होंने देखना है, प्लान करना है फ्यूचर के बारे में, वो हर एक चीज को देखेंगे. एक्सपेंसेस कम हो हमारे, इनकम हमारी ज्यादा हो, प्रॉफिट हमारा ज्यादा हो, लाइबिलिटीज को रिड्यूस किया जाए, स्टेक होल्डर्स को सेटिस्फाई किया जाए. So the most detailed information will be required by the management of the business.
मैंने नोट किया कि इसमें इसके जितने अंडरस्टैंडिंग्स हैं मीटिंग में या एमएन में या इसमें ये ऐसे लगता है ये भी आंसर हो सकते हैं, ये भी आंसर हो सकते हैं.
ऐसा ही है,
बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग
ऐसा ही है, क्योंकि आप ब्रिटिश करिकुलम पढ़ रहे हैं. ब्रिटिश अगर आप लोगों ने पहले ओ लेवल्स ए लेवल्स किया होता ना तो आपको ये मुश्किल लगना है, क्योंकि वो बच्चे वो ऑब्वियसली वो शुरू से उसी को एक सांचे में ढल गए होते हैं कि भाई यही है. तो अच्छा, now this is the basic topic only.
framework.
Might be one question can be asked to you about this topic in the multiple choice questions. The framework. Now, as I told you that generally there are no exact formats which are provided to us by International Accounting Standard Board for the preparation of the financial statements. But some rules and regulations are being provided to us by different authorities according to which we have to prepare our accounting reports. Now, all those authorities which are providing us the rules and regulations for the preparation of the financial reports together make a framework for the preparation of the financial statements. मुख्तलिफ अथॉरिटीज हमें बता रही है कि आपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के अंदर क्या लिखना है, यूजर्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को किस किस चीज के मुतालिक इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए. ये तमाम के तमाम रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस मिलके हमें एक फ्रेमवर्क दे देते हैं, हमें एक सेट ऑफ रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस दे देते हैं जिसके मुताबिक हमें पता चल जाता है कि हमने अपने रिकॉर्ड्स बनाने. So this is the purpose of the framework. What does this say? One of the most important documents underpinning the preparation of the financial statements is the Conceptual Framework for Financial Reporting, which was prepared by IASB. Now, whatever rules and regulations you are going to learn in regards to the financial accounting are coming from IASB, International Accounting Standards Board.
Standards Board?
Standards Board. Before to some time, it has been a committee. Now the name of board has been given to this. It is present in UK because we are following the rules and regulations of UK ACCA. That is why all of our knowledge is coming from UK. Now the standards which are produced by IASB are followed in most of the countries of the world. जब मैं कहती हूँ ना कि हमें अकाउंटिंग किस तरह से करनी है, हमें इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स बताते हैं. These IFRS are followed in most of the countries of the world. Say for example, Pakistan, UAE, Australia, Canada, UK itself, and most of the countries of the world are following IASB. In Bangladesh and in India, still it is not being followed. GAP. That is over there, we are following generally accepted accounting principles. In America too, we are following generally accepted accounting principles. Generally accepted accounting practices. So we are following GAP in some of the countries of the world, but still they are also seeking to follow IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. Okay. So anyhow, we are going to learn about the International Financial Reporting Standards in this subject in a slide. When you are going to head towards 7th paper of ACC, F7, which soon after passing F4, you will be enrolled in F7. My technique is that after passing first 3 papers of the ACC, the next 2 papers which you are going to take are F4 and F7. F5 and F6 you are not going to take immediately. After passing these 3 subjects, you are going to enroll in F4 and F7. Okay, so soon after this, passing these 3 subjects, the next subject which you are going to start will be the 7th one, in which you are going to learn the International Financial Reporting Standards in detail. Now, my dear students, the topic which we are going to learn is about the qualitative characteristics of the financial statements. हमें बताया जाता है कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स आपने बनानी है, उसमें कौन-कौन सी खसूसियात, कौन-कौन से फीचर्स होने चाहिए. IAS 1 International Accounting Standard number 1 presentation of the financial statements tells us that few qualitative characteristics must be present in the financial statements. जब कोई आपकी बनाई हुई फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को देखे तो उसमें कुछ खसूसियात लाजमी कंपल्सरी तौर पर होनी चाहिए. उन क्वालिटीज को 2 तरह की क्वालिटीज में डिवाइड किया गया है. Fundamental qualitative characteristics and enhancing qualitative characteristics. Fundamental qualitative characteristics are the principal qualitative characteristics without which financial statements are of no use. If these characteristics are not present in the line items of the financial statements, your financial statements are of no use. They are just a fraud from the organization for the users of the financial statements. They are misleading the users of the financial statements. And these 4 enhancing qualitative characteristics are going to enhance or going to what we can say enlarge these basic qualitative characteristics. ये जो 4 qualitative characteristics हैं, ये इन्हीं का further detail आप लोग देखें. इन्हीं 2 qualitative characteristics को और ज्यादा बढ़ाएंगे ये 4 qualitative characteristics. So now these qualitative characteristics has been provided to us by IAS 1, again presentation of the financial statements. You can see that it's not written in your book, but why I'm hinting to those standards, so that when you are going to step into the next subject, you must be having a brief knowledge about that as well. So fundamental qualitative characteristics are 2: relevance and faithful representation. What is the meaning of relevance? We have discussed yesterday also attributes of the good information. One has been relevant. Relevance is all that is the characteristic of being relevant, of being what we can say.
Information must be relevant. It was something like this.
Yes, information must be relevant. Information which is being presented in the financial statements must be relevant for the uses of the users of the financial statements. Users of the financial statements क्या देखना चाह रहे हैं financial statements के अंदर, उन needs के मुताबिक वो information होनी चाहिए. ठीक है, अब वो क्या देखना चाह रहे हैं? Financial health of a business. If financial health of the business is not being elaborated by your financial statements, then they are of no use. In the relevance, one important concept which you need to understand is the concept of materiality. When you are going to study your study text over there, it is mentioned. What is the meaning of materiality? Materiality or material items are all those items which, if skipped from the financial statements, then the economic decisions of the users of the financial statements will be adversely affected. Material items क्या हैं? वो तमाम के तमाम items जिन्हें आप अगर financial statements में नहीं लिखते, तो users of the financial statements के जो decisions हैं वो गलत हो जाएंगे. ठीक है, वो जो economic decisions लेने के लिए आपकी financial statements देख रहे हैं, अगर आप कुछ items अंदर से skip कर देते हो जो कि material है, तो उनके सारे के सारे decisions गलत हो जाएंगे. Now, according to IAS 1, all the items are relevant if they are material. You cannot skip any kind of the material or immaterial transactions from your books of accounts. Now, relevance does not mean कि आपको सिर्फ material items ही लिखने हैं अपने books of accounts के अंदर. Material और immaterial तमाम के तमाम नोट करने हैं, लेकिन material तो आप बिल्कुल skip कर ही नहीं सकते, because they are relevant to the economic decisions of the users of the financial statements. Got it? The next thing is faithful representation. Faithful representation tells us about the concept of truth and fairness.
What?
Truth, but true and fair means faithful representation. It's truth and fairness. Okay, when we are using it as an adjective, then it's truth. Okay, so true and fair view is basically a faithful representation. True means correct, without any mistakes, free from errors, accurate one. Whatever you are presenting in your financial statements must be true. It must be an honest presentation. Whatever is actually happening in the organization must be shown in the financial statements. On the other hand, fairness means unbiased opinion. Subjective opinion, if required anywhere in the financial statements, must be unbiased. What is an unbiased opinion? किसी खास पार्टी की तरफ आपका झुकाव नहीं होना चाहिए. एक ऑब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन फेयर ओपिनियन है. से फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पर मुझसे मैनेजमेंट पूछती है, हाँ जी आपके बच्चे कैसा परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं, मैं उन्हें कहती हूँ फर्स्ट क्लास A1, हालांकि बच्चे बिल्कुल भी अच्छा नहीं पढ़ रहे. अब मैंने ये ओपिनियन गलत दी है, ये अनफेयर ओपिनियन, ये ऑब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरा बच्चों की तरफ लगाव है, इन्हें डांट ना पड़े किसी हायर अथॉरिटी से, इसलिए मैंने इन्हें सिक्योर कर. This is biased opinion. This biasness is not accepted in financial statements. Whenever the financial statements have to be prepared, they should be giving true and fair view of the actual position of a company. Truth and fairness means faithful representation. Got it?
Yes.
It should be free from errors and biasness. Then enhancing qualitative characteristics. On the basis of these two qualitative characteristics, enhancing qualitative characteristics are also there. First one is comparability. Whatever you are writing in your financial statements must be able to be compared to the other set of data. Now, comparison means कि आप दो चीजों को compare कर रहे हो, आमने सामने रख के compare कर रहे हैं. जब आप दो चीजों को compare कर रहे हो, अगर वो एक जैसी पॉलिसीज की बेस पे बनी हुई है तभी कंपेयर कर सकोगे ना. अगर दो जो आपके पास रिकॉर्ड्स हैं वो अलग-अलग पॉलिसीज फॉलो करके बने हुए हैं तो आप उन्हें कंपेयर ही नहीं सही कर सकते. So those set of the financial statements are comparable, which are following the same accounting policies and same accounting standards. Financial statements के अंदर ये characteristic मौजूद होनी चाहिए कि वो एक जैसी accounting policies follow करते हुए बनाई जाए, ताकि जब उन्हें कंपेयर करने की बारी आए तो मुश्किल ना हो. इसीलिए दुनिया के बहुत सारी जगहों पे, बहुत सारे कंट्रीज के अंदर इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स यूज हो रहे हैं कि जब आपस में कंपैरिजन की बारी आए तो फाइनेंशियल पोजीशंस कंपेयर की जा सके. इट्स नेसेसरी फॉर कंपैटिटर्स, especially again it is necessary for the management of the organization as well. कंपैरिजन दो तरह से होता है, एक तो इंटरनल कंपैरिजन होता है, एक एक्सटर्नल कंपैरिजन होता है. एक्सटर्नल कंपैरिजन में हम देखते हैं कि हमारी पोजीशन कंपैटिटर के मुताबिक में कैसी है. In internal comparison, we have to benchmark our activities with our own performance in the previous years. Is it? We have to see that whether we have improved from the last year or the previous years or not. This is internal benchmarking. So our own businesses on previous records must also be prepared following the same standards in which they are going to prepare their next financial statements as well. So if we are changing the accounting policies every year, obviously this is not going to be having the characteristic of comparability then. Clear now? Then verifiability. Verifiable is something which is having an evidence. If say for example, management asks me that how many students are present in your class? I say that I have 10 students in my class. I have only 2 students. This is a fraud. I am telling them that I have 10 students in my class. Now, when I will be telling 10 students in my records, they will ask me that where are registration documents? Give the receipts of those students. I will not be having any invoices. Invoices of only 2 students will be present in front of me. Am I right? So it means that defrauded information will be lacking the characteristic of verifiability. Whatever you are reporting in the financial statements must be having an evidence. इसको कहते हैं हम लोग ऑडिट ट्रेल. ऑडिट के अंदर इस टर्म को हम लोग कहते हैं ऑडिट ट्रेल. दिस इज नॉट ट्रायल. Okay, I'm not mispronouncing it. Some students think that teacher is mispronouncing this word. It's audit trail.
Audit trail.
Audit trail. Trail means a certain, what we can say, a certain way. is a trail. So audit trail is known as a set of the evidences which are creating the final items in the financial statements. जब आप financial statements में कुछ लिखते हो ना, तो पहले एक फेज से गुजर के आए हुए हो, पहले रिकॉर्ड किया ट्रांजैक्शंस को, फिर क्लासिफाई किया, फिर समराइज किया। वो तमाम जो पीछे के रिकॉर्ड्स है ना, वो वेरीफाइबिलिटी की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है। इनवॉइस रेज होगी तो पता चलेगा ना सेल्स रेवेन्यू हुआ है। पीछे इनवॉइस ही नहीं, क्यों इनवॉइसेस रिसीट्स वगैरह क्यों क्रिएट की जाती हैं? बिकॉज पर्संस आर क्रिएटिंग द ऑडिट एविडेंस एंड दिस इज the characteristic of verifiability. Whatever you are mentioning in the financial statements must be able to be verified as well. And it can be verified only if you have certain evidence. Got it? Then we have timeliness. Whatever you are presenting in the financial statements must be presented timely. In financial statements, historical results are being recorded. Those are backward-looking records. For the past 1 year, whatever has happened in the business has to be recorded in the financial statements. It has to be presented timely. जो 2 साल पहले हो गया है या जो आगे होना है वो नहीं रिकॉर्ड करें, ठीक है? For 1 year, for past 1 year, whatever has happened in the businesses, we have to record that. Understandability. Now, what is the concept of understandability? Whatever is written in the financial statements must at least be understandable by the users of the financial statements. But please also keep in mind that IAS 1 tells us that whenever you are making the financial statements, you are going to think that the persons who are going to read them are able to understand it. Okay, but obviously every person who is going to read your financial statements is not an accountant. There will be laymen also who are going to read your financial statements. So financial statements have to be prepared by taking an assumption in mind that whoever is going to read our financial statements is not always a financial accountant. So we have to elaborate those financial statements with the help of providing extra information in disclosure notes. In notes to the financial statements, we are going to provide the details. So now in the exam, how the question is going to be asked regarding these, sometimes they ask you that which of the following 4 options is the enhancing qualitative characteristic. So they will be giving you comparability, relevance, faithful representation. It means that comparability is the enhancing qualitative characteristic. So you must be remembering that fundamental qualitative characteristics are relevance and faithful representation. Enhancing qualitative characteristics are comparability, verifiability, timeliness, and understandability. Clear? अभी तो सिर्फ 11 ही बजे। Do you want a break, Samira? Okay, sure. ज़्यादा पढ़ लिया। Obviously, in the start, these subjects are interesting. The quality of ACCA is that you will not be getting bored. I hope that you people do not get bored sitting in the class. So this is the quality of ACCA. Towards the end, when you are going to, in every lecture, there will be something new to learn. Old knowledge is not going to be repeated everywhere, every time. Okay, we can take a break now. लोग तो पता नहीं क्यों कहते हैं, ये मुझे आज तक नहीं समझ आए। और फिर बच्चे भी तो ये देखने की बात है कि बच्चे भी इतने मासूम होते हैं कि अपने माँ बाप की बात नहीं सुनते, टीचर्स की बात नहीं सुनते, लेकिन लोगों की बात सुनते हैं कि मुझे उसने कहा था ये बड़ा मुश्किल है। चाहे पेरेंट्स कहते रहे कि नहीं बेटे, जब आपकी दुनिया कर रही है तो आप भी कर सकते हो, टीचर्स कहते रहे, वो नहीं सुनते बच्चे। उसने कहा है मुश्किल, हो सकता है जो वो कह रहा है मुश्किल है वो इतना ही जेलस हो आपसे कि वो चाहता ही ना हो कि आप कर सको, वो तो कहे। Obviously, it should not be happening, but the world in which we are present is full of jealous people. It's full of jealous people. We do not want anyone to succeed. It's true. It should not be happening. तो जो ये कहते हैं ना, मैं अपने बच्चों को कहती हूँ, जो तुम्हें कहे ना कि ये तुम अच्छे नहीं लग रहे या फिर ये वो तुमसे जेलस है, मैंने उनको सिखा दी है ये बात। It is very necessary to enhance the confidence of the students and to enhance the confidence of our young generation now, because the persons around ourselves are just putting the hurdles in our way. I just tell my students only one thing: if I can do ACCA, why can't you people can do it? I have done my 4 papers of ACCA on self-study basis. because I did not have resources, to be telling you very honestly. And now the position at which I'm standing you, I'm not telling you that I have become something. It's not like that. Just to put an example in front of you, my communication skill was very worse. Worst communication skills I had. I was that kind of a student in my class who was the most nervous one. I was very shy. I was not able to speak in front of people. Really. Then for ACCA, I did not have money. I took money from my aunt. I had promised her that I will return your money once I will become an ACCA qualified. And Alhamdulillah, before completing my ACCA, I returned her money back. Why I'm telling you this? Because before to completion of your ACCA, you will be in a position to support your family because it is going to give you high returns. And it's not like that ACCA cannot be done. My ACCA has been done in the first attempt. So the other people can, my friend, one of my friends also, she has completed ACCA in first attempt. Now she's in Bahrain. Now if girls or if ladies can do it, then boys should be having more potential. It's not like that I'm discriminating, but because boys are more social, they do see the outside world more as compared to the girls. So they should be more confident. Just never ever tell yourself that this is impossible. There are so many examples. With the passage of time, I will give you the examples of the people, how they have done their studies. And you are very lucky that your parents are financing your education. I still remember when it was my first day. Okay, now a very important topic which we are starting to discuss is the elements of the financial statements. Your total book of financial accounting revolves around these 5 elements of financial statements. Whatever you have to do in the financial accounting will revolve around these 5 items. We do call them as the elements of the financial statements, or we do call them the basic things which we have to present in our financial statements. 5 important things, you should be memorizing them by their definition. The definition is also going to be asked to you in the examination. They will be giving you few options. You have to select the definition for the thing which they are asking about that. Say, for example, assets definition they will be giving to you, and you have to select from the given 4. Anyhow, 5 elements of the financial statements are incomes, expenses, assets, liabilities, and equity. I repeat, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, and equity. These are the 5 elements of the financial statements. About these 5 elements, you are going to learn in your all of the financial accounting that how are we going to recognize them or disclose them in our financial statements. So rules and regulations in the financial accounting are about these 5 items. Whatever you are writing in your accounting records, it's whether assets or it's liability or it's income or an expense or an equity. So it means that whatever you are writing in your records is either of these 5 items. It's nothing outside. One by one, we are going to learn about these. Assets. IS 1 says that an asset is a present economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past events. This is the language of the standard in IS 1. A present economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past events. In simple language, what is
Assassin.
Very good. The dictionary meaning of asset in Urdu is asasajat. We call them as assassin. We do generally define assets as all those things which are used by an entity in order to generate income. जो कुछ भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर यूज होगा इनकम को जनरेट करने के लिए वो एसेट कहलाएगा. In simple language, all those items which are used and controlled within a business in order to generate economic resources are known as assets. तमाम तर वो चीजें जो कि हम बिजनेस में यूज कर रहे हैं इनकम जनरेट करने के लिए वो क्या कहलाएंगे? एसेट्स कहलाएंगे. जैसे say for example in this UCA university these chairs are being purchased by the university. Why? So that students can come, sit and attend lectures. These chairs are helping the business in generating income. This is an asset. This camera is recording the lectures. It means that this is also an asset. Computer, asset. Whiteboard, asset. This building, infrastructure, asset. If it is a manufacturing or trading business, if something is purchased for the purpose of resale, inventory, when you go to the grocery shop, whatever you purchase is an asset for that business. Whatever is helping the business in order to generate revenue or income is known as an asset. Standard tells a present economic resource. Resource is an asset. Everything which is helping us to generate revenue is known as a resource. Got it? Whatever we are using in order to generate revenue is a resource. A present economic resource. Economic resource which can be presented in the form of the monetary terms, which we can give some financial value. A present one which is already in use, which we are using right now. A present economic resource controlled by the entity. Now standard says assets are all those things which are controlled by the entity. Ownership is not necessary. लाजमी नहीं है कि बिल्डिंग जिसके अंदर हम लोग रेवेन्यू जनरेट करें वो हमारी ऑनरशिप पे हो. If it is controlled by the entity, most of the businesses do take the buildings on lease, on rent, is it? So it means that if the asset can also be controlled by the entity. Owned asset can also be there in place, but if it is controlled only, then can also be an asset of the business. So present economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past event. As a result of past event means that due to agreement or due to any kind of contract of the organization, the person who is providing the asset, we can have an asset in the organization. So as per IS1, asset is a present economic resource which is controlled by the entity as a result of the past. In simple language, all those things which are being used by the business in order to generate revenue are known as assets. Furniture, fixtures, buildings, motor vehicles, computer equipment, land and buildings, all these are assets of the business. Then we have liability. In simple language, liability is an obligation of a business. Obligation, zimmedari. If we have any obligation towards third party is known as a liability.
Liability kharche?
Liability, no. Expenses are kharche.
Karza है liability.
कर्जा कह सकते हैं. जिम्मेदारी हमारी obligation हमारी liability. If we have taken a loan from some person, it's our now liability and responsibility to pay that principal amount back. So that obligation for paying that amount back to the certain party is our liability. Liability क्या है? Obligation है. Similarly, like assets, the definition of liability is also provided to us by IS1. IS1 says a present obligation of the entity to transfer an economic resource as a result of the past event. Past event, agreement or contract. When we are taking a loan, obviously we have done an agreement with the financial institution that at this time we are going to pay you back this loan amount. So that is our responsibility. Any obligation on the part of the entity is known as a liability. Now, Abdullah says that liability खर्चे हो सकते हैं. Liability खर्चे नहीं है. Liability को fulfill करने के लिए हम जो पैसे दे रहे हैं वो खर्चा कहलाया जा सकता है. जैसे लोन लिया वो जिम्मेदारी है, उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट दिया वो खर्चा है. That is an expense. Okay. So we are going to find the differences also, but in future. Then we have equity. Students, what is an equity? The obligation on the entity on the part of the shareholders is known as an equity. We also say the right of the shareholders in the business is known as an equity. What is an equity? The right of the shareholders on the business. जब business बनता है ना, तो क्या होता है business के अंदर? हम लोग खरीदते हैं एसेट्स, ऐसे ही है, एसेट्स खरीदे जाते हैं, we purchase assets, एसेट्स खरीदते हैं, बिल्डिंग ले ली, वहां पे ऑफिस बनाएंगे, कुर्सियां ले ली, एसी शेसी लगवा लिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना लिया ताकि हम लोगों ने अब बिजनेस को चलाना। These all things are assets. ये एसेट्स कहाँ से आएंगे? पैसा होगा तो एसेट्स आएंगे। ये पैसा कहाँ से आता है? या तो हम लोगों ने कोई लोन लिया है, पैसा लोन से हम लोग ले सकते हैं। लोन क्या है? लायबिलिटीज। या फिर वो पैसा हम लोगों ने शेयर होल्डर से लिया है, ऐसे ही है ना, शेयर होल्डर से हम लोगों ने वो पैसा लिया है, वो क्या है? इक्विटी। जो पैसा हम लोग शेयर होल्डर से ले रहे हैं वो उनका राइट है बिजनेस के ऊपर। शेयर होल्डर्स आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन द बिजनेस सो दैट बिजनेस कैन परचेज एसेट and in future whatever income is going to be generated, dividend can be earned out of that. If the business is taking a loan from the third parties, that obligation on the part of the third parties is now a liability. हम लोग कहते हैं कि जो बिजनेस के ऊपर थर्ड पार्टीज का हक है वो लाइबिलिटीज है, बिजनेस के ऊपर जो कि शेयर होल्डर्स का हक है वो इक्विटी है। This equation is very popular in financial accounting and this is known as an accounting equation. At any time in a business, assets, total assets must be equal to the sum of liabilities and equity. क्योंकि business के अंदर जो कुछ है वो किस जगह से आया है, या तो हम लोगों ने थर्ड पार्टी से कुछ ना कुछ ऑब्लिगेशन हम लोगों ने ली है, या फिर हम लोगों ने शेयर होल्डर्स से लिया है। 1 minute. We do change this accounting equation and we do write it as asset minus liabilities is equal to equity. Which means that whatever is going to be left in the business after fulfilling the obligations will go to the shareholders. जो कुछ business में बचेगा liabilities देने के बाद वो भी किसका है? shareholders. यही shareholders का interest होता है business के अंदर। वो क्यों invest करना चाहेंगे? Ultimately जो कुछ बचेगा liabilities fulfill करने के बाद वो share. So yes, Abdullah.
Accounting में general accounting क्या है? उसके अंदर एक दोनों लाइन ऑलरेडी मैंने पढ़े होते हैं। एक में एसेट इक्वल्स लायबिलिटीज आता है आंसर, दोनों तरफ आंसर या क्रेडिट साइड और डेबिट साइड इक्वल आएंगे तो आंसर सही है। और एक में ये जो एसेट माइनस लायबिलिटीज पहले निकाल लिया आपको, आंसर आएगा वो इक्वल टू इक्विटी ना हुआ गलत है, अगर हुआ तो बिल्कुल ठीक है। ये वही है।
This is what fact is. The second thing which you are telling that assets minus liability is equal to equity, that is balance sheet. Statement of financial position. Statement of financial position, one of the financial statements is based upon this accounting equation. In SOFP, we do write these three things, and assets at any time must be equal to the liabilities plus equity. That is why if your assets are not equal to the liabilities plus equity, your statement of financial position is wrong. जो दोनों चीजें बराबर करनी होती है ना, दोनों तरफ वो यही है। दूसरी चीज, डेबिट और क्रेडिट इक्वल वो ट्रायल बैलेंस। ट्रायल बैलेंस इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द डबल एंट्री सिस्टम। ओके, we do make it for internal purposes before to the preparation of financial statements. Anyhow, Samira, don't be confused because he has already done that 12th standard. That is why he is taking those. You also did. You also know about all these statements. Very good. So these are the now you are learning कि वो सारी चीजें क्या थी जो आप लोगों ने पढ़ी है। Now, the fourth important thing is income. All the revenue of the business is known as income. Whatever business is earning is known as its income. If, say, for example, business is selling its inventory, it's income. If the business is taking any commission, it's income. If the business is receiving any rent, it's income. If the business is earning any kind of income, it is known as the income of the business. Now, there are two types of the income primarily. One is sales revenue and the other is other income. Because when you are going to prepare the financial statements, that would be necessary for you to know. Now, some activities are those by which the business is earning its basic revenue. Say, for example, if you have opened a grocery shop, you have opened a bakala. Over there, you are going to sell the grocery in order to generate revenue. That particular type of the income which you are generating by selling those grocery items, that is your sales revenue. जबकि साथ आप आप लोगों ने सोचा कि भाई हमारा बिल्डिंग के अंदर एक फ्लैट भी खाली पड़ा हुआ है, चलो उसको भी हम लोग दे देते हैं रेंट के ऊपर। उधर से जो रेंट आ रहा है वो ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ बिजनेस नहीं है, दैट इज नॉट योर ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ अ बिजनेस, सो दैट इज आल्सो द इनकम बट नॉट द सेल्स रेवेन्यू। Got it? So you have to differentiate that what you are earning from the ordinary course of the business and whatever you are earning extra also has to be differentiated. So income is the total of the sales revenue and other income. Whatever you are earning from the ordinary course of the business is sales revenue. Whatever you are earning other than that sales revenue is your other income. Standard says about income. Okay, so they have not provided us the definition by the income. So anyhow, they say this consists of the increase in assets or decrease in liabilities that result in increase in equity other than those relating to contributions from holders of equity gains. This can be achieved, for example, by earning sales revenue or through the increase in the value of an asset. Now, this is complex language. Do not confuse yourself. Just keep in your mind that whatever you are earning in the ordinary course of the business or outside that ordinary course is known as your income. Then the last one is expense. Expense is your budget. Whatever is outflowing out of the entity is your expense. Outflow of the economic benefits out of the entity is known as your expense. जो भी आप खर्चे कर रहे हो बिजनेस के अंदर वो क्या है? एक्सपेंस। अब बेसिक बात जो आपने अंडरस्टैंड करनी है वो ये कि जब आप सपोज करो कि आप लोगों ने एक बिल्डिंग खरीदी है, बिल्डिंग आप लोगों ने खरीदी है, क्या आप उसमें अपना ऑफिस बनाओगे? ठीक है, खर्चा किया आपने, तो अब ये बिल्डिंग एसेट है कि एक्सपेंस है? खर्चा तो किया है आपने, तो ये एक्सपेंस है कि आपका एसेट है? एसेट। क्यों है एसेट? क्योंकि आपने बुक में पढ़ा था, अभी मैंने बताया है, इसलिए ये एसेट है। इसीलिए क्या बचा है?
मैम कोई भी चीज जो आपको इनकम जनरेट करके दे वो
वेरी गुड, दिस इज द पॉइंट। जो भी चीज आपको इनकम जनरेट करके दे वो एसेट है। अच्छा, किस तरह डिफरेंशिएट करोगे एक्सपेंस को और एसेट को? ठीक है, ये डेफिनेशन है, ये मैंने अभी बताया, आपको इनकम जनरेट करके दे रही है बिल्डिंग, तो ये आपका एसेट है। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ, अच्छा चलो, अगर आप
डेप्रिसिएशन हर एसेट की डेप्रिसिएशन होती है, जैसे आप उसे यूज करते
हो, वो तो ठीक है, वो तो होती है,
वो तो
ठीक है।
जो आप उसमें से कमाओगे आपको उस पर वो लगाना है कुछ ना कुछ। डेप्रिसिएशन पे
डेप्रिसिएशन ये नहीं है कि आपने उसके ऊपर लगाना है,
माइनस होता है, एसेट
माइनस तो होता है, लेकिन डेप्रिसिएशन भी ये नहीं है। खैर उसको हम डिस्कस करेंगे। लेकिन क्यों, क्या मतलब, एक हम लोगों ने खर्चा किया है, चलो ये तो आप लोगों ने पढ़ा कि भाई वो हमें इनकम जनरेट करके दे रही है इसलिए, लेकिन क्या डिफरेंस, हम लोग कैसे डिफरेंशिएट कर सकते हैं कि फलानी चीज हमारा एक्सपेंस है और फलानी चीज हमारा। अच्छा, एक और बात बताओ, आपका बिल आया घर में, अच्छा आपने एक आपका कंपनी है, लेकिन आप उसमें क्या करते हो, क्योंकि लोग कॉल्स करते हैं प्रमोशन के लिए, तो आप लोग उन्हें प्रीपेड कार्ड्स, जो है प्रीपेड कार्ड होते हैं ना बैलेंस के, वो लेके आपकी जो आप मोबाइल का बैलेंस करवाते हो वो उन सबको दे देते हो, ये आपका प्रीपेड कार्ड, ये आपका प्रीपेड कार्ड, ये आपका प्रीपेड कार्ड। नाउ व्हाट इज दिस? दैट अमाउंट व्हिच यू हैव स्पेंट on those prepaid cards, whether it's an asset or expense. Sunil, prepaid cards का पता है? मोबाइल में बैलेंस डलवाते हो तो कैसे डलवाते हो? पोस्ट पेड बिल आता है, बड़े अमीर हो। तो फिर पहले बैलेंस डलवाते हो? एक्चुअली मैं बैलेंस नहीं, आप कॉल नहीं करती? माशाल्लाह, जब हम लोगों ने मोबाइल पे कॉल करनी होती है ना किसी को, तो हम बैलेंस डलवाते हैं, एक जाके कहते हैं इतने से लाख वालों को, हाँ मशीन पे। अच्छा, तो उसको हम लोग जाके कहते हैं हमारा बैलेंस आ जाता है ना। अब वो जो हमने बैलेंस डलवाया, हमने नहीं, मतलब बिजनेस में है हम लोग, ठीक है, उधर डलवाया, तो वो हमारा एक्सपेंस है कि एसेट? नहीं, एसेट है ना। एसेट क्यों है? क्यों है? बात यह है कि क्यों है, चलो मान लिया एक्सपेंस है, लेकिन क्यों है?
मैं बताऊं,
हाँ
मैम ऐसे वो होते हैं जिसपे आप बिजनेस रन कर रहे हो, जिसके ऊपर
अच्छा
मींस के जैसे जो एवरी डे है ना, वो एसेट ही होता है। एसेट होता है जो वन टाइम आप देती है, जो एवरी डे होता है वो एक्सपेंस होता है।
Now that's the point where I wanted to bring you. That prepaid card is our asset. That is not an expense. यहाँ पर मैं लेके आना चाह रही थी, ये वो एक स्लाइड सा पॉइंट है जिसके अंदर आपको क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए। जो भी ऐसी चीज जिसका बेनिफिट आपने अभी लेना है, the benefit is yet to be taken, is an asset for you. All those things which you have purchased and the benefit is yet to be taken out of that is your asset. If the benefit is expired already and you are paying for that, it's an expense. Postpaid जो बिल है ना, वो हमारा एक्सपेंस है। प्रीपेड कार्ड हमने लिया, भी बेनिफिट लेना है, दैट इज एन एसेट। इसी तरह से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल है, अगर आपने इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पहले यूज कर ली है और उसका बिल दे रहे हो, दैट इज योर एक्सपेंस। इफ यू आर पेइंग इन एडवांस, लाइक इन द केस ऑफ रेंट यू डू, it's your asset. If you are paying in advance because the benefit is yet to be taken, that is your asset. This you have to keep in mind in order to differentiate between expense and asset. Now onwards, please keep this thing in your mind. So I hope that all of you are clear. Now on the basis of these 5 elements, we are now going to learn, in next lecture, we are going to learn about the rules of the debit and credit. First, I need to go into the detail of those 5 elements of the financial statements. First, we are going to learn more about assets. Assets are all those economic resources which are going to be used in the business in order to generate revenue. तमाम वो चीजें जो business के अंदर use हो रही हैं, revenue generate करने के लिए वो assets कहलाती हैं. We have 2 wide categories of assets: non-current assets, also known as fixed assets, and current assets. We do have 2 wide categories, 2 broad categories of the assets: non-current assets and current assets. Whether non-current or current assets, both of these will be used in the business in order to generate revenue. The basic principle remains the same. But what are non-current assets? All those assets which will be used in the business for the period of more than 12 months are known as non-current assets. वो तमाम के तमाम assets जो कि हम लोग 12 महीने से ज्यादा business में use करेंगे revenue generate करने के लिए, वो non-current assets कहलाएंगे. Say for example, land, building, furniture and fixtures, motor vehicles, because we are going to use them for the period of more than 1 year. That is why machinery, we do call them as non-current assets. The other name for the non-current assets is fixed assets. It's not non-current assets, it's a current asset. Prepaid cards are assets but current, because those are not going to be used for the period of more than 1 year. Now we have current assets, all those assets whose benefit is going to expire within 1 year are known as current assets. All those assets which we are going to use in the business for the period of lesser than 1 year are known as current assets. Non-current assets for the period of more than 1 year, and current assets for the period of less than 1 year. Got it? All those assets whose benefit is going to expire within 1 year are known as current assets. Now, non-current assets examples, you can see land and buildings, motor vehicles, plant and machinery. Whereas current assets, inventory, receivables, cash. What is inventory? All those things which we are purchasing for the purpose of resale are known as inventory. And receivables are those persons to whom we have sold something on credit. आप मेरे पास आती हो समीरा और कहती हो कि मिस मुझे परचेज करनी है कुछ चीजें आपसे, लेकिन मैं उधार करूंगी आपसे, मैं आपको 1 महीने बाद पे करूंगी. You are now receivable for me because I have to receive the money from you in the future, but obviously within 1 year, that is why you are receivable for me. You are asset for me. So for debtors is the another name for receivables. Cash is a liquid asset. Liquid asset is one of the category of the current assets. All those assets which are already in the form of cash or can be easily converted into the cash are known as liquid assets. So cash is the current asset because we are going to use it in the ordinary course of the business in order to generate revenue. That is why it's an asset. ठीक है? तो current assets क्या हैं? तमाम तर वो assets जो कि हम लोग ordinary course of the business के अंदर करेंगे in order to generate करंट एसेट्स क्या है? तमाम तर वो एसेट्स जो कि विद इन 1 ईयर यूज होंगे इन ऑर्डर टू जनरेट रेवेन्यू, करंट एसेट्स. क्लियर एवरीवन? दिस से नॉन करंट एसेट्स, any tangible or intangible assets. Under non-current assets, we have 2 categories: tangible non-current assets or intangible non-current assets. Tangible non-current assets are those which are having physical substance. All those assets which are having physical substance, which can be seen and touched. हम लोग देख सकते हैं, हाथ से छू सकते हैं, वो क्या है? Tangible non-current assets. Intangible non-current assets. Those non-current assets without physical substance are known as intangible non-current assets. हम लोग देख नहीं सकते, हम लोग छू नहीं सकते. Those are known as intangible non-current assets. Tangible non-current assets, furniture and fixtures, motor vehicles, land and buildings, these are tangible non-current assets. IS 16 deals with tangible non-current assets. IS 16 property, plant and equipment. Intangible assets can be any kind of franchises. Now you will say that franchises, we can see franchises, but there is a right to make a franchise. That right cannot be seen. Okay, so intangible goodwill of a business, repute of a business which has been built over the time, not an inbuilt one, but the purchased goodwill has to be recognized as an intangible asset. Patents. What are patents? If some company is having some formula to produce some goods and services, that patent is basically an inbuilt progress of a business. That if some other company does want to use that same formula, then we have to purchase those rights to use that same formula. Patent rights. Patent is also an intangible asset. Copyrights. On your books in the front page, is it written? Have you seen copyright registered? See inside the circle. It means that this publisher is having the copyright. Apart from this publisher, no one can copy the content of that book. That is again a right. Okay, so all those assets, obviously all these rights are giving us the capacity to generate revenue, but we are not able to touch them. These are rights generally only. Okay, so these are the examples of the intangible assets. IS 38 deals with intangible assets. We are going to learn both of these standards. IS 16, IS 38 will never leave you alone up till the end of ACCA, up in any qualification related to accountancy and finance. IS 16, IS 38 does come. Sorry?
IS 16.
IS 16 property, plant and equipment. IS 38 intangible assets. International accounting standards, जो कि हम लोगों ने learn करने हैं basically. समझ आई? जो मैंने बताया, IESB produce करती है और बताती है कि हम लोगों ने किस चीज को किस तरह से. Okay, but do not confuse yourself. We are actually, I am trying to go into depth of everything. Anyhow, okay, any tangible or intangible asset acquired on the long-term basis to be used in providing a service to the business and not held for resale in the normal course of trading. एक और चीज जो नॉन करंट एसेट्स के बारे में हम लोगों ने जहन में रखनी है, हम उन्हें ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ ट्रेडिंग के अंदर सेल करने के लिए परचेज नहीं करते. वो तमाम तो चीजें हम लोग जो परचेज कर रहे हैं, लेकिन मकसद हमारा उनको सेल करके बेनिफिट अचीव करना नहीं है. सेल कर सकते हैं, ये नहीं कि फर्नीचर लिया उसको कभी सेल ही नहीं करना क्योंकि वो नॉन करंट एसेट है. कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जब हम लोगों ने उसे खरीदा था तो मकसद हमारा ये था इसको यूज करके हम लोगों ने बिजनेस के अंदर ही पैसा जनरेट करना. तो all those assets which are not purchased for the purpose of resale are known as non-current assets. Whereas current assets, those assets which are purchased for the purpose of resale are current assets. जैसे इन्वेंट्री, अगर किसी बंदे का काम ही फर्नीचर का है, फर्नीचर को परचेज करके सेल करना है, तो फिर वो करंट एसेट है, बिकॉज दैट इज एन इन्वेंट्री नाउ. ठीक है, समझ आ रही है सर? So all those assets which are purchased for the purpose of resale, we can call them as current assets. So they say assets which are expected to be realized in the business in the normal course of trading. Normal course of trading, business का काम क्या है? ग्रोसरी सेल करता है, फर्नीचर सेल करता है, क्या करता है? नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ ट्रेडिंग. Disclosed in the statement of financial position with the least liquid item first, usually inventory. Whether current assets or non-current assets will be posted finally into the statement of financial position. What is the place of the assets to go finally? Assets just go to the statement of financial position. Got it? Okay, now similarly, like assets, we are going to discuss few things about liabilities as well. What are liabilities? Obligations on the business, on the part of the third parties. Business के ऊपर, excuse me, business के ऊपर जो भी जिम्मेदारियां हैं third parties की तरफ से वो क्या हैं? Liabilities हैं. Obligations, responsibilities on the business which are coming from the third parties are known as liabilities. Business के ऊपर दो लोगों की responsibilities हैं, शेयर होल्डर्स की और थर्ड पार्टीज की. थर्ड पार्टीज की जो भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं बिजनेस के ऊपर वो क्या है? लाइबिलिटीज हैं. शेयर होल्डर्स की जो भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं बिजनेस के ऊपर वो इक्विटी है. Similarly, like assets, liabilities also are going to be divided into two broad categories: non-current liabilities and current liabilities. Those liabilities which have to be fulfilled after the period of 1 year are known as non-current liabilities. Say, for example, long-term loan. If the business has taken a loan which has to be returned after 1 year, it's a non-current liability. On the other hand, we have current liability. If the liability and the obligation has to be fulfilled within 1 year, it is now a current liability. Say, for example, same loan. If it's short-term loan, if we have taken a loan and we are going to pay it back within 1 year, it's a current liability. So you have to see as per the time. If it has to be paid within 1 year, it's current liability. If it has to be paid or realized after 1 year, it's non-current liability. Now come to this same sort of a question. Okay, forget it right now. We are going to discuss that later. Non-current liability, long-term liabilities payable more than 12 months after the reporting date. Reporting date is a date for which the accounts are being prepared in the organization. Reporting date or accounting date. Those liabilities which are payable within 12 months of the reporting date are current liabilities. Both of these are going to be presented in statement of financial position. Assets and liabilities, their final residing place is statement of financial position. Now, students, we have discussed assets and liabilities. I told you that assets and liabilities does go into the statement of financial position. Together with these two, equity does also go to the statement of financial position, plus equity also being posted into the statement of changes in equity. Then we have income. Income is reported in statement of profit or loss. Expenses are posted in statement of profit or loss. So these are the final places of all these 5 elements of the financial statements. Now we do have an understanding. Let's have a look at this. Classify the following items into current and non-current assets and liabilities. First one is land and buildings. Yes, Abdul. Land and buildings.
Non-current.
Non-current what? Asset or liability?
Asset.
Asset. The land and building is non-current asset. Receivables. Yes, Samira. Is it asset or liability? Very good. Receivable is an asset. Is it current asset or a non-current asset? Very good. It's a current asset. क्योंकि हम लोगों ने पैसे किसी को उधार पे दिए तो हम लोग 1 साल का इंतजार नहीं करेंगे, फौरन पैसे लेंगे. इसके अलावा भी क्योंकि रिसीवेबल्स अराइज हो रहे हैं नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ ट्रेडिंग के अंदर. जब आप नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ ट्रेडिंग के अंदर कोई चीज सेल कर रहे हो उधार पे, तो 1 साल के अंदर अंदर ही पैसे रिसीव करोगे, तो आपको तो बिजनेस जो है वो ठप हो जाएगा. वैसे उधार दे सकते हो 1 साल से ज्यादा के लिए भी, लेकिन क्योंकि रिसीवेबल्स ऑर्डिनरी कोर्स ऑफ द बिजनेस में अराइज हो रहे हैं, दैट इज व्हाई दे आर करंट एसेट्स. कैश. यस अब्दुल्ला.
Current asset.
Very good. It's current asset. Loan repayable in 2 years time. Yes, Samira.
It's liabilities.
Which one? Current or non-current liability? Very good, because it has to be fulfilled after the period of 1 year. Very good, excellent. Payables, yes, Abdullah.
Payables,
Payables are those persons from whom the business has purchased something on credit. Receivable वो जिनको उधार पर चीजें बेची हैं, debtors के लाते हैं. Payables वो जिनसे उधार पर चीजें खरीदी, creditors. ठीक है? So payables are our
asset. Liability.
Liability, we have to pay them back. Current liability, current liability. Delivery van, yes, Amina?
It's an asset,
Very good. Which kind of an asset?
non-current.
Very good, non-current asset. So land and building, non-current asset. Receivables, current assets. Cash, current assets. Loan repayable in 2 years' time, non-current liability. Payables, current liability. Delivery van, non-current asset. Okay, now a very important part again we are discussing, because of this first chapter only initial concepts which we are going to help you in all of your work are going to be discussed. Every accounting concept, yes to you.
जो MBA तो रफ सारा उसका पहला चैप्टर वो देखिए
आहिस्ता आहिस्ता इंटरेस्टिंग होगा, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता वो इंटरेस्टिंग
बाकी बीटी और ये दोनों सही है वो रफ सारा
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं सोचो, वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आपको क्यों, क्योंकि देखो थियोरी पढ़ाना मजबूरी बन जाता है एसीसीए के अंदर। टीचर्स के लिए भी ये ज्यादा आसान नहीं, आके 4-5 सवाल किए बस खत्म, काम बड़ा सुकून से हो गया। एसीसीए में ना थियोरी जाननी छोड़ती, न्यूमेरिकल अब आप लोगों के ज़हन में होगा, मैनेजमेंट अकाउंटिंग, फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग इज अ न्यूमेरिकल सब्जेक्ट, so we are going to do the numericals only, but it's not the same. Even in the numerical subjects, around 40% questions, 40 to 50% questions are the theoretical questions, which are going to be
पेपर कंप्यूटर आया पेपर आपने सुना लेकिन फिर इसको मैनेज कैसे करेंगे? मैंने तो
हल कर के आंसर्स 4 आंसर्स दिए होंगे, वो सेलेक्ट करने होंगे, फिर आप लोगों को सब फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट से लाइन आइटम्स लिख देंगे, आगे क्या होंगे, फिगर्स क्या लिखनी है वो आप लोगों ने लिखनी है। ठीक है, आप लोगों को मैं दिखाऊंगी प्रैक्टिकल एग्जाम्स, मॉक एग्जाम्स करवाऊंगी।
मैं मेरा एक दोस्त है वो ऑलरेडी एसीसी का था, उसने 10 के बाद स्टार्ट किया था, एफआईयू कर चुका है, एफआईयू का डिप्लोमा है उसके पास। मैं वो कंप्यूटर पे लैपटॉप पे एसीसी की ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट पे जाके ये एग्जाम फिक्स करता होगा।
बिल्कुल मॉक एग्जाम्स होती है एसीसी।
तो वो कहता था कि जो बुक की अंडरस्टैंडिंग से वो काट लो समझ के, और एग्जाम के जो बुक वालों के वो काट लो, एसीसी की एग्जाम के करो तो
बस फिर पीछे रह क्या जाता है ऑब्वियसली,
उन तक पेपर पास।
बिल्कुल एग्जाम वाली एग्जाम डेट पे 2-3 दफा कर लो। अच्छा मैं एक और बात बताऊं, मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स को कहती हूँ, पिछलों को भी मैंने यही कहा है कि आप लोग एग्जाम किट आप लोगों ने करनी है अपने तौर पे, मुझ पे ना रहना कि मैं एग्जाम किट भी पूरी करवाऊंगी, पॉसिबल ही नहीं, इतना टाइम नहीं। मैं आप लोगों को करवाऊंगी अपने प्रिपेयर्ड मॉक्स, मैंने मॉक्स प्रिपेयर किए हैं, उन्हीं मॉक्स के अंदर सिमिलर या सेम टाइप के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं एग्जाम के अंदर। वो ऑब्वियसली इतने साल हो गए वो देखते देखते तो पता चल गया है कि एग्जाम के अंदर कौन से क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं।
जैसे फेडरल कोर्ट का टीचरों को भी पता होता है वन का पेपर
वो तो बिल्कुल ही और तरह की बात है, लेकिन एसीसीए के अंदर ऑब्वियसली वो चेंज करते हैं। तो वो 8-10 मॉक एग्जाम्स है, वो मैं करवाऊंगी आप लोगों को एंड में, रमजान में, अप्रैल के अंदर वो हम लोग करेंगे, क्योंकि मैंने आप लोगों के मई में एग्जाम्स करवा देंगे। मई में जून का इंतजार नहीं करना, मई में आप लोगों के एग्जाम्स हो जाएंगे। वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू लिंगर इट ऑन, क्यों? क्योंकि जून में आप लोग करोगे रेस्ट और जुलाई में आप लोग आओगे नेक्स्ट सेमेस्टर के लिए। ठीक है, अगर मैं जून में लिंगर ऑन करके फिर आप लोग थके भी हम लोगों ने एग्जाम दिए हैं, फिर वो मई में आप लोग के एग्जाम मैंने हर सूरत करा देंगे। अप्रैल के अंदर हम लोग मॉक एग्जाम शुरू कर देंगे। समझ लो कि हमारे पास अप्रैल मिड तक का टाइम है हम लोगों ने अपना सिलेबस कवर करना। ठीक है, अप्रैल के मिड। तो जो आपको एग्जाम के अंदर क्वेश्चंस वो मैं मॉक आप लोगों को करवाऊंगी, उसके थ्रू ही आप लोगों का एग्जाम कवर हो जाएगा। लेकिन एग्जाम डेट 2 दफा कम से कम खुद से करो, रोजाना जो टॉपिक पढ़ते हो घर जाके करोगे मुश्किल ही नहीं। वेरी गुड,
लेकिन हमने वो तो इसलिए
वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उसकी आहिस्ता आहिस्ता समझ आएगी। ठीक है, थोड़ा सा टाइम गुजरने दो उसका। अच्छा, एनी हाउ अदर इंपॉर्टेंट अकाउंटिंग कॉन्सेप्ट्स। नंबर 1, मटेरियलिटी। Now, why these accounting concepts are important to be understood? Because all of your financial accounting is dependent upon these accounting concepts. When you are going to perform the accounting work, you have to keep in mind these accounting concepts. You have to stick to these accounting concepts. Number 1 is materiality. Anything is material if it is having the capacity to influence the decisions of the users of the financial statements. कोई भी चीज material है अगर उसमें ये capacity है कि वो यूजर्स ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के डिसीजंस को चेंज कर दे, दैट इज मटेरियल आइटम। से फॉर एग्जांपल आपका कारोबार है, मिलियंस ऑफ द रेवेन्यू यू आर अर्निंग, If you are skipping $1 revenue from your financial statements, is it going to influence the economic decisions of the users? It means that that $1 revenue is immaterial. If, say, for example, you are running only a small grocery shop, bakala you are running, and your monthly income is not more than 5,080, for you, are 1080 material or not? 1080 material, because only monthly revenue is 5,080. So materiality depends upon the total earning of a business. So anything is material if it is having a capacity to influence the economic decisions of the users of the financial statements. Everything material or immaterial has to be reported in the financial statements. Materiality concept you have to keep in mind, but it does not mean that only material items have to be recorded and we can skip immaterial items. Everything has to be recorded. Substance over form. This is very important concept, and this is going to stay with you forever. Substance over here means economic substance. Economic substance. And form over here means legal form. We normally know that whatever is in law, we have to follow that. But in accountancy, in financial accounting, if the economic substance of the transaction is overriding the legal form, you have to go with the economic substance. अगर economic substance of the transaction कुछ और है, जबकि उसकी legal form कुछ और है, तो आप लोग priority दोगे economic substance को, क्योंकि आप लोग financial accounting कर रहे हो किसके लिए? Users of the financial statements के लिए. तो जो एक economic substance है, जो कि एक underneath value है एक item की, वो आपको अपने जहन में रखनी है और वो आपको show करनी है. Say for example, a very common example of it is shares. Shares, what are shares? Shares is an equity. When some owners are purchasing the shares, that is their right of the business, so it's an equity. Is it? Right of the owners on the organization is equity. If someone is purchasing shares, that has to be recorded as an equity. But say for example, under equity, we do say that the amount which we have taken in the form of the shares has to be returned back to the shareholders. Now it has become liability. Is it? क्योंकि shares को हम लोगों ने कभी भी amount जो shares के लिए ली जाती है वो वापस करती है कंपनी? नहीं. कंपनी कहती है अगर कि हम वापस करेंगे तो अब इकोनॉमिक सब्सटेंस चेंज हो गया है. लीगल फॉर्म तो शेयर्स की ही है, लेकिन इकोनॉमिक सब्सटेंस लाइबिलिटी का बन गया. अब उसको आपको लाइबिलिटी के तौर पे शो करना है, शेयर्स को आप नहीं शो करो. So economic substance over legal form means that whenever the economic substance of the transaction is going to coincide with the legal form, you are going to give a priority to the economic substance and you are not going to record the legal form. Then going concern assumption. This is an assumption. It means that you have to assume something. Whenever you are recording the transactions of the business, you have to assume, as per the given circumstances, that your business will be running for a foreseeable future. Foreseeable future in accountancy means for the period of 1 year at least. Foreseeable future normally means more than 1 year. So when you are producing the accounts, you have to take an assumption that the business is not having any hurdles and it will be able to run for the period of more than 1 year. If the business has any plans, or if the business is not running well and it may collapse during a year, then we have to prepare the financial statements following breakup basis. Okay, so policy and process is going to be changing if this assumption is not there. Then we have business entity concept. This business entity concept is related to the separate legal entity. Do you remember separate legal entity?
Yes, ma'am.
When I was telling you about the separate legal entity, I told you that the business and the owners are separate from each other. They are not one in the eyes of law. That is why whenever you are going to make the accounting records, you have to consider yourself as a business, neither an accountant nor a shareholder. You are the business. So this is the business entity. Got it? Then accruals basis of accounting. This is again very important concept of accounting, accrual basis of accounting. Accrual basis of accounting means that, listen carefully. Accrual basis of accounting means that we have to record the transactions on the basis of the rights and obligations. not on the basis of actual cash received and paid. हम लोग इनकम रिकॉर्ड करेंगे जब हमारा राइट बन गया है, हमारा हक बन गया है उस इनकम के ऊपर, whether we have received that income in the form of cash or not, चाहे हम लोगों ने कैश रिसीव किया है या नहीं किया, उस इनकम के लिए जब वो हमारा हक बन गई है हमें उसे अपने रिकॉर्ड्स में शो करना. We have to record all the expenses when they have become our obligation, whether paid in the form of cash or not. हमें सारे के सारे एक्सपेंसेस को रिकॉर्ड करना है जब वो हमारी ऑब्लिगेशन बन गई है, जब हमारी जिम्मेदारी बन गई है पे करने की, चाहे कैश में पे किए हैं चाहे कैश में पे नहीं किए. अगर कोई एक्सपेंस पिछले साल का था लेकिन आपने उसे इस साल कैश में पे किया है तो वो आप इस साल रिकॉर्ड नहीं करोगे, पिछले साल रिकॉर्ड करना चाहिए था. So accrual basis of accounting is being followed in financial accounting. एक इनकम है, say for example, I am preparing my own financial statements. Anyhow, these are related to the limited liability company, but just to give an example, I am preparing the financial statements for myself. And this month's salary, I have not received. I have not received, say for example, God forbid, if I have not received this month's salary, I am still going to record it as an income in my books of accounts. Because the right on the income is being generated, whether received in the form of cash or not. Okay, this is accrual basis of accounting. There is only one financial statement, that is statement of cash flows, which follows cash basis of accounting. इसके अंदर जो हम ट्रांजैक्शंस रिकॉर्ड करते हैं ना, तो कैश पेड और कैश रिसीव्ड के हिसाब से करते हैं. बाकी तमाम तो SOFP, SOPL, SOCIC, remaining three के अंदर accrual basis of accounting, which means that whenever we have built up a right or an obligation over to something, we have to fulfill that. We have to go according. Next concept, prudence. Sometimes it has been asked in the exam, prudence. Prudence means the state of being cautious. If someone is very careful, we call that person as a prudent one. कोई बड़ा केयरफुल है ना, फूंक फूंक के कदम रखता है, मेरे कदम कहाँ जा रहे हैं, that person is a prudent one. In accountancy, prudence means being cautious. While recording the transactions, we have to adopt an attitude of carefulness, which means that your income and assets should not be overstated and your expenses and liabilities should not be understated. ध्यान में रखना है कि इनकम जितनी है उससे ज्यादा ना रिपोर्ट कर दो, एसेट्स जितने हैं उससे ज्यादा ना रिपोर्ट कर दो, एक्सपेंसेस और लाइबिलिटीज जितनी हैं उससे कम ना रिपोर्ट कर दो. You have to be cautious. Otherwise, users of the financial statements will be misled. Moreover, any foreseeable losses have to be accounted for immediately, but not the profits. अभी बैठे सोच रहे हो कि फ्यूचर के अंदर हो सकता है हमें अगले साल बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हो जाए, खुदा न खास्ता, अभी उसको रिकॉर्ड करोगे. Foreseeable loss, you have to record it right now. अगर सोच रहे हो अगले साल हो सकता है बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉफिट हो जाए, वो नहीं रिकॉर्ड करें. So you have to be cautious. This attitude of being cautious is known as prudence. Then we have consistency. Who is a consistent person? Who is adopting the same type of the attitude for a long term. While recording the financial transactions, you have to adopt that attitude. You have to remain consistent. Same type of the accounting policies have to be adopted by the business so that we can bring in the characteristic of comparability. Do you remember the characteristic of comparability? Two type of the basic qualitative characteristics we have discussed. Fundamental qualitative characteristics and enhancing qualitative characteristics. What are fundamental qualitative characteristics? Very good. Relevance and faithful representation. And in enhancing qualitative characteristic, one has been comparability, which is related to consistency concept. अगर हम लोग कंसिस्टेंटली एक ही जैसे अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसीज अडॉप्ट नहीं करेंगे, इसका मतलब है हम लोग कंपेयर नहीं कर सकेंगे अपने रिकॉर्ड्स को. So unless it is necessary, you have to follow the same type of the accounting policies from the start up till the end. Clear? Okay. Understanding number 3. Which of the following statements are correct? Only tangible assets, that is those with physical substance, are recognized in the financial statements. Is it true? Do we recognize only tangible, non-current assets in our books of accounts? Both tangible and intangible, both have to be recognized. This is wrong. Number 2, faithful representation means that the commercial effect of the transaction must always be shown in the financial statements, even if it differs from the legal form. Have a look at these options and tell me which option is the right one. Yes, the second one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Faithful representation means that commercial effect of the transaction must always be shown in the financial statements, even this differs from the legal form. Second one is right. Second one is right. Third one, business only reports transactions, events and balances that are material to the users of the financial. It's incorrect. I told you. जब मैं materiality पढ़ा रही थी तो उसमें बताया था ना कि material हो या immaterial items हो दोनों ही record होंगे. But this is telling business only report transactions, events and balances that are material to the users of the financial statements. This one is wrong. Only number 2 is the right one. Option C is the correct one. Okay. We are skipping these 3 slides as of now. We are going to come back to this later. Now, students, the next important concept which we are studying now. Take 2 minutes break. After that, we are going to study. Okay, only 2 minutes break we are going to take. No, it's not like that. Because in order to absorb the concepts, you need a peace of mind. Try to recap the concepts that we have studied. दो बेटा आए भी हैं आजकल. They do not live with me over here. वो आते हैं विजिट के लिए आते हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि शुरू से वो जा रहे हैं वहाँ पे एक अच्छे स्कूल में जा रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में, और मैं उनकी स्कूलिंग पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करना चाहती. अपने फादर के साथ रहती हूँ. मैं आते हैं विजिट करने के लिए आते हैं, फिर चले जाते हैं. आजकल आए हैं, अब चले जाएंगे, फिर अभी नहीं जाएंगे, जल्दी नहीं जाएंगे, लेकिन कुछ दिन. हालांकि मुझे मिला है उनका वीजा वगैरह सब कुछ, इंश्योरेंस वगैरह सब कुछ है, लेकिन मैंने कभी भी नहीं ले रखा इस तरह से. क्यों? उसकी 2 वजह हैं. एक तो मैं ये नहीं चाहती कि बच्चे अपने बाप से दूर रहें. बच्चों के लिए बाप के साथ रहना बहुत जरूरी है. और दूसरा ये कि मैं स्कूलिंग पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं कर सकती.
जो इधर रहते हैं वो पाकिस्तान में नहीं जा सकते, जो इधर रहे.
हाँ, मैं अगर आज भी अगर मैं सोचूं ना तो मेरा दिल करता है कि पाकिस्तान में रहना चाहिए. मैं अगर सोचूं अपने बारे में, अच्छा मुझ में नहीं वो इंटरेस्ट क्रिएट हो सका कि नहीं जी मैं बाहर हूँ तो मैं
मेरा छोटा भाई इधर पैदा हुआ. अब हम पाकिस्तान गए थे, मेरे मामू की शादी थी तो फ्लाइट्स बंद हो गई. तो हम चक्कर में हर दूसरे उसने ना हर रोज रात को रो के उसने सोना, उसने छुपा के सोना. अब आप फोन करके कहता था मुझे ना विंग्स आ रहे हैं, तो मैं विंग्स आ जाएंगे तो मैं आपके पास आ रहा हूँ. वो हर रोज मुझे याद करता था कि मैं वापस जाना. हर रोज अपने कस्टमर कहता था अब बस ना मैंने वापस चले जाना है, उधर जाके मैं तुम लोगों को वीडियो कॉल किया करूँगा. अच्छा
मुझे भी सब यही कहते हैं, मेरे कोलीग्स वगैरह और सब के भाई आप जल्दी से उनका वीजा शीजा करवा लो. मेरा नहीं दिल मानता. अच्छा मेरे हस्बैंड भी, वो भी उन्होंने भी मुझे कहा है कि जैसे अगर उधर करना है उधर कर लो, लेकिन एक इसमें भी फैक्टर है, मेरे हस्बैंड भी नहीं मानते. वो कहते हैं कि मैं उधर ही सेट हूँ, मैंने उधर ही रहना. वो सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड है. उनका मतलब उनका इंस्टीट्यूट भी उनका अपना था, लेकिन अब वो विजिटिंग फैकल्टी पे पढ़ाते हैं. और उनका बिजनेस है, फर्नीचर का बिजनेस है उनका. कॉपर के ये जो सॉरी ब्रास फर्नीचर के अंदर ब्रास का पता है. ग्रास।
मेरे मामू का फर्नीचर का शोरूम और फर्नीचर की फैक्ट्री में अपनी गई सियालकोट।
अच्छा, बहुत जबरदस्त। अच्छा, सियालकोट में भी हमारे काफी सारे रिलेटिव्स जानने वाले मौजूद हैं। आपको शायद पता हो वहाँ पे जो पॉलिटिक्स के अंदर भी शाहनवाज वगैरह वो सारे।
कौन? ईशा
शाहनवाज,
शाहनवाज,
चीमा चीमा।
चौधरी एहलाक वगैरह के साथ
नहीं,
नहीं, क्योंकि उस्मान डार जो है वो और चौधरी एहलाक के साथ हम
वो कौन सी पार्टी में?
उस्मान डार तो ये इसमें है इमरान खान वाली
पीटीआई।
पीटीआई।
फिर बाकी उनके जाने वाले, क्योंकि आपको वो काफी सियालकोट वगैरह सारा उनके ही हल्के में आता है।
तो उस्मान डार और ये जो है चौधरी एहलाक वगैरह के साथ हम लोग की है, क्योंकि मेरे नाना का ये सारे काम है प्रॉपर्टी वगैरह का, तो उनके साथ
बिल्कुल, तो वो जानते होंगे लास्ट में।
इनके साथ हम लोग उन्होंने रखी हुई है, क्योंकि काफी ऐसे हादसे वगैरह होते रहते हैं, तो इनके इन लोगों के साथ रखी
बिल्कुल।
इन लोगों के साथ है, इसलिए इन लोगों का पता है। बाकी इनका नाम लोग इनका है पता है। और ये जो उस्मान डार है, तो ये लोग तो मेरे ख्याल ये बहुत मतलब बचपन के दोस्त वगैरह के साथ
बिल्कुल, क्योंकि मेरे जो फादर वगैरह हैं वो बाय बर्थ को सियालकोट के, लेकिन वो बहुत ही अर्ली एज में कुवैत चले गए थे, तो सारी जिंदगी कुवैत।
ज्यादातर सियालकोट के लोग यहाँ पे इस्लामाबाद में रहते हैं, यहाँ लाहौर वगैरह में रहते हैं। उधर सियालकोट में कुछ घर है, लेकिन क्योंकि सियालकोट में कोई भी काम सियालकोट में नहीं होता, आपको लाहौर ही जाना है हर काम के लिए, जो सब बोल में
डेवलपमेंट लाहौर को की है,
डेवलपमेंट लाहौर को किया है। और दूसरा ये कि सियालकोट के अंदर सिक्योरिटी प्रॉब्लम बहुत है ना।
बिल्कुल, समीरा करेगी, क्या बातें होती रहती है यहाँ पर। समीरा को भी बांग्लादेश गई हुई है, समीरा यहीं पर है हमेशा से। समीरा को क्या पता दुख का कि अपने मुल्क में जाके क्या होता है।
जबकि सियालकोट वगैरह में सिक्योरिटी वगैरह की बहुत प्रॉब्लम है, उधर आप खड़े खड़े भी रहती है और गाड़ी भी उठ के ले जाती है, उधर घर के बगैर गुजारा नहीं।
बस यही प्रॉब्लम्स है हमारे में।
जबकि मैं इस्लामाबाद बहुत मेहनत की, सियालकोट वो इनकी इस्लामाबाद बहुत अच्छी जगह है रहने के लिए,
लेकिन इस्लामाबाद महंगा बहुत। अब है वैसे लाहौर सबसे ज्यादा महंगे में आया, लेकिन इस्लामाबाद बहुत महंगा।
नहीं मैं महंगा नहीं है इस्लामाबाद,
कंपैरेटिवली महंगा है।
कंपैरेटिवली अगर आप घर वगैरह की बात करें तो सियालकोट में कितने की जमीन है इस्लामाबाद में।
वो तो है वैसे।
सियालकोट में भी आप 10 मरने का जो घर है 3-3.5 करोड़ से कम का किसी जगह नहीं है। इस्लामाबाद में इतने में वो फिर आप जी सेक्टर में ले लो या एफ सेक्टर में ले लो या फिर वो उस तरफ गुलबर्ग वाली साइड पे तो बहुत सस्ते हैं, लेकिन जो सेक्टर्स हैं इस्लामाबाद के हम दो इन्होंने डेवलप सेक्टर्स बनाए हैं, एक एफ सेक्टर है और एक जी सेक्टर है। बाकी जो एक सेक्टर है वो सारा गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स है या यूनिवर्सिटीज का है, एक और ई सेक्टर वो तो पूरा गांव है।
बिल्कुल,
तो ये दो डेवलप सेक्टर है। मतलब जो अगर F8 की बात करें तो F8 में 8 करोड़ 9 करोड़ से कम का घाटा है। F10 वगैरह में सही है, F7 में भी ठीक है, G10 G11 में भी ठीक है। तो G10 G11 में आराम से 10 मरने का जो घर है वो 3-3.5 करोड़ का है। सियालकोट में भी तो
हाँ वैसे ये ओवरऑल तो कंपैरिजन करें, लेकिन मैंने कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग की बात, एक तो इस्लामाबाद में ये भी मैंने देखा है कि कोई छोटी सी भी चीज आपने लेनी है ना तो आपको काफी दूर ट्रैवल करके जाना पड़ता है, नहीं तो आम उस तरह से नहीं है।
उधर हर सेक्टर के अंदर मरकज बनाए हुए हैं, मरकज के अंदर दुनिया की हर चीज।
अच्छा खैर मैं इस्लामाबाद इतना गई नहीं, मेरे रहते हैं वो वगैरह रहते हैं वहां पर, वो सारे कुछ 1-2 दफा ही गई हूँ वहां पर।
मैं रिसेंटली गया था तो मैं तो सारा देखा था, लेकिन इस्लामाबाद में रोड टाइम सियालकोट से तो सियालकोट एक ऐसे इसके सामने गांव लगता है।
हाँ
गांव से आप जैसे शहर में वो उस तरह की उधर, लेकिन उधर एक और भी मजे की बात है, सियालकोट में एक शर्म आया है, खासकर लड़कियों में एक शर्म आया है, मतलब ये निकल गया क्योंकि सर पे दुपट्टा जरूर होता है, लेकिन फिर इस्लामाबाद में
बस ये तो हर जगह पे अपना, और मैं कहती हूँ ये हर इंसान के अपने ही दिल की बात होती है कि क्या वो तो दुबई में भी देखें, समीरा बैठी नहीं, ये तो इंसान के अपने
अब सियालकोट में फिर वो अगर ऐसे कोई हो तो सारे ऐसे करके देखते हैं, जबकि इस्लामाबाद में भी देखे वो नॉर्मल समझते हैं, जैसे इधर नॉर्मल है वो नॉर्मल समझते हैं, हर जैसे उधर नॉर्मल पठान भी है, बाइबल भी है, मॉडर्न भी है, ज्यादा मॉडर्न भी है, नॉर्मल,
हर तरह
के सियालकोट का एक ही तरह के ज्यादातर लोग हैं।
हाँ चलो अच्छा, now the topic which we are going to start it's chapter number 2 now. We have finished chapter number 1 and we are now on chapter number 2 of our book. In this chapter number 2 we are actually going to learn about the basics of the limited liability company. Now listen carefully that whenever the limited liability company is formed, the basic purpose of the formation of the limited liability company is that the organization needs more resources. More resources, ज़्यादा assets चाहिए होते हैं, अपने business को expand करना होता है, इसलिए limited liability company बना ली जाती है. Business तो sole proprietorship भी है, business तो partnership भी है, तो लोग limited liability company ही क्यों जाते हैं? क्योंकि ज़्यादा resources चाहिए होते हैं, बड़े scale पर business चलाना होता है. सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप के अंदर एक ही बंदा जो होता है वो ऑनर होता है, वो इतने ज्यादा पैसे इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकता, उसे और ज्यादा पैसों की जरूरत है तो वो पार्टनरशिप कर लेगा. पार्टनरशिप में भी आप बहुत ज्यादा लोग नहीं शामिल कर सकते, और एक्सपेंड करना है बिजनेस को तो लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी कंपनी बना लो, पब्लिक लिमिटेड लायबिलिटी कंपनी बना लो जिसमें अनलिमिटेड शेयर होल्डर्स हैं. यस,
एक पब्लिक लिमिटेड है, एक
प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी. We are speaking about public limited company. Private limited company is the one in which companies are not eligible to sell their shares to the general public. So in last, they have limited number of shareholders. In public limited companies, we are having an offer and eligibility to sell our shares to the general public. We can sell unlimited number of shares to the general public. So this is a basic difference. Now, when limited liability company is formed, when we do want to get capital in order to run that limited liability company, we do get shareholders involved in it. Shareholders are the persons who are investing in a business. They are investors. Say, for example, a limited liability company has to be made up and the total capital, total finance required in order to run that limited liability company is, say, for example, $40 million. We do need an investment of $40 million. How are we going to get this $40 million? We are going to divide this total amount of the share capital into small denominations. We are going to divide it into small parts. Each part will be known as shares. Say, for example, each share is having a value of $100. Now, those who want to invest in the company are going to purchase the shares of the company. Company will be getting the capital, and those persons who are purchasing the shares of the company will become owners of the company, and because they are having the shares of the company, that is why they are known as shareholders. Now, since in the public limited company or the private limited liability company, we have a lot of shareholders, is it possible for all of them to come in the company and manage it? क्या ये तमाम के तमाम लोग कंपनी में आके मैनेज कर सकते हैं कंपनी को? कंपनी के अंदर तो मुसीबत पड़ जाएगी कि क्या हो रहा है, इतने सारे लोग, मिलियंस ऑफ लोग आ गए हैं कंपनी को मैनेज करने के लिए. That is why they appoint or elect few persons from outside the organization or from within themselves who are going to manage the company on their behalf. The persons who manage the company on the behalf of the shareholders are known as directors of the company. Directors of the company are management of the company. These are in board of directors. In management accounting, we have learned about strategic planning. These are the persons, directors are the persons who are going to do the long-term planning of the business. They are directors. You cannot say that directors are never shareholders. Major shareholders of the company are normally directors of the company because they do not want to trust others. They become the directors of the company themselves so that they can run the company in a well manner. Now, in this way, what happens? The ownership and the management of the company lies in two different hands. Now, what difficulty can arise? What difficulty can arise? It can happen that directors start running the company for their own benefit, instead for running it for the benefit of the shareholders. पैसा किसका है? Shareholders का. Manage कौन कर रहा है? Directors. ऐसा भी तो हो सकता है डायरेक्टर्स धोखा देना शुरू कर दे शेयर होल्डर्स को, हो सकता है ना। अब जब ये धोखा देंगे डायरेक्टर्स शेयर होल्डर्स को, किस तरह धोखा देंगे कि वो बेनिफिट्स ऑफ शेयर होल्डर्स के लिए कंपनी को रन नहीं कर रहे, बल्कि दे आर रनिंग द कंपनी फॉर देयर ओन बेनिफिट्स. The relationship of the shareholders and the directors in the company is known as an agency relationship. What is the relationship being called? Agency relationship. It means that directors are agents of the shareholders. The person who is working on the behalf of the other is known as an agent. Since directors are working on the behalf of the shareholders, that is why they are known as agents. And the person on whose behalf the others are working is known as a principal. That is why shareholders are principals in a company. The relationship between shareholders and directors of the company is known as an agency relationship. When the directors of the company start working for their own benefits, instead of working for the benefits of the directors, there is a problem which is created, and this problem is known as an agency problem. What is an agency problem? When the directors of the company start working for their own benefits instead of working for the benefit of the shareholders. This is what is being explained in this slide. They say that shareholders do delegate the management or control to the directors. Directors do control the company to achieve the objectives of the shareholders. Ownership remains in the hands of the shareholders and control remains in the hand of the directors. When the directors start working, fulfilling their own objectives, and their objectives are not matching with the objectives of the shareholders, agency problem arises. So, company's ownership and control lies in two different hands. This is the difference again in between sole tradership, partnership, and companies. In sole tradership and partnerships, the persons who are owning the company can control the company as well. But in limited liability company, the persons who are owning the company are not normally the same as those who are managing the company as well. So there is a separation of ownership and control in the case of limited liability companies. Now, for how much time do we have?
5.
We still have time. This concept of separation of ownership and control gives heads up to the corporate governance. Now, when the directors are managing the company on the behalf of the shareholders, what happens? Agency problem arises. So it means that there is a need to govern the company in such a way that the objectives of the shareholders are being met. Why are we making a company? So that the objectives of the shareholders can be met. What is the basic purpose of the commercial organization? To increase the shareholders' wealth, to increase the profit of the company. If the directors will start running the company for their own benefits, it means that objectives of the shareholders are not going to be met. So there is a need to govern the company, to direct and control a company in such a way that the objectives of the shareholders are going to be met. Now, the way of directing and controlling the company is known as corporate governance. The debate on the corporate governance started a few decades ago. What happened at that time? The companies used to collapse a lot of times in the year. The shareholders of the company were having a look at the financial statements of the company to see that how well the business is running. They saw that company is making good profits and everything is going well. But after some time, they saw that the company collapsed. Company became insolvent. It came to the point that so many shareholders around the world started debate that why is it happening? If the financial statements are telling us that the business is going on well, then why the companies are collapsing? Extending to this point, so many committees have been made around the world. One of those committees has been Cadbury Committee. Cadbury Committee has been made. It's not Cadbury chocolate. It's Cadbury Committee. Cadbury Committee has been made, whose objective is to see the reason behind the collapse of the companies and come with the recommendations which needs to be followed in order to govern the company in a best possible manner. Cadbury Committee ने क्या देखना था कि कंपनीज क्यों कोलैप्स हो रही हैं, कंपनीज क्यों गिर रही हैं इस तरह से, और दूसरी तरफ ये कि कंपनीज किस तरह से अच्छे तरीके से गवर्न की जा सकती हैं. The ways to direct and control the company is known as a corporate governance as per the Cadbury report. Cadbury Committee ने रिपोर्ट बना के दी 1992 में, जिसमें बताया गया corporate governance की definition. The way to direct and control the company is known as corporate governance. Cadbury Committee ने बताया कि कंपनी इसलिए कोलैप्स कर रही हैं क्योंकि there is an agency problem. Directors are trying to defraud the shareholders and other stakeholders of the company since they are trying to run the company for their own benefits, and on the other hand, when it comes to report, they are preparing wrong reports. Then the need of the external audit arises. Then we needed someone who is going to give the assurance to the shareholders that the reports which are prepared by the directors of the company are giving a true and fair view of the actual financial position of the company. So this is now corporate governance. They say the Cadbury report 1992 provides a useful definition, the system by which companies are directed and controlled. An appropriate expansion to this definition might include in the interest of shareholders and in relation to those stakeholders beyond the company boundaries. So corporate governance purpose is not only to protect the rights of the shareholders, but to protect the rights of all the stakeholders, so that directors should not be defrauding them. So this is the concept of the corporate governance. Now, whenever we are following a good corporate governance in the company, what benefit it is going to bring to us? Effective management. The company is going to be managed in an effective manner. Effective means quality one. Good management is going to be there. Effective system of internal controls. All those systems which are designed to prevent and detect frauds and errors in the organization are internal control system. जब good corporate governance होगी, तो एक पूरा का पूरा good system of internal control भी बनेगा. Error होगा, fraud होगा, फौरन पकड़ा जाएगा. पहले तो वो प्रिवेंट होगा, होने ही नहीं देंगे. अगर हो गया है तो फौरी पकड़ा जाएगा. Oversight of the management by non-executive directors. There are some sort of directors who are going to see the performance of the normal directors on the ongoing basis, ताकि वो कोई गलत काम कर ही ना सके. Fair appraisal of director performance. Directors की performance को बार-बार regularly monitor किया जाएगा. Fair remuneration of the directors. डायरेक्टर्स अपनी जेबें रेम्यूनरेशन से नहीं भर सकेंगे. अभी भी ये होता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये होता ही नहीं है, हर जगह होता है, लेकिन होना नहीं चाहिए एज पर द रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस. ना अब क्यों होता है? क्योंकि कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस, यूके कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस कोड we do follow in most of the countries of the world, but this is not law. This is not law. If we are following, it's a best practice. If we are not, then it's okay.
नंबर तो किसी भी जगह कोटेशन देना, तो जो कोटेशन लेने वाला होता है ना, इधर मैं ये बात कर पर्सन को जो होगा, मतलब बिजनेस चाहिए कि हाँ चाहिए, मतलब बताओ मैं तुम लोग को ऑर्डर दिलाऊंगा, मेरा जो मुझे कितना बिजनेस में भी करते हैं. तो ऐसा ही है, लेकिन इसमें कोई हर्ष भी नहीं है. इसमें तो कोई हर्ष नहीं है, तो गलत भी नहीं है. ये कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस में तो आप नहीं हो, ये तो कमीशन है. ये तो कमीशन है. दिस इज कमीशन. हर एक कंपनी से आपने उस आदमी को कोटेशन दे दिया है, जैसे संपत्ति की विंडोज की है, एल्युमिनियम की हर कोई उसे कोटेशन देगा, यहाँ कोई उसे अपना एस्टिमेट बताएगा कि ये एस्टिमेट है इतने ना के
बिल्कुल
जो उससे ज्यादा प्रॉफिट दे, जो उससे ज्यादा
ये तो उसका हक बनता है ना, ये तो ना लॉ रोक रहा है ना कॉर्पोरेट, ये तो उसका हक है।
उसका हक नहीं है, वो सैलरी कंपनी से ऑलरेडी देता है,
अच्छा
वो इधर से रिश्वत मांगता है।
तो रिश्वत कमीशन ही हुआ ना, रिश्वत क्या है, कमीशन ही हुआ ना। अब कोई भी किसी को काम होगा उसको कमीशन कह लो, इंटरेस्ट भी, फिर तो इंटरेस्ट भी नहीं सही, बेवारे बैठे वो पैसे इन्वेस्ट कर दिए, इंटरेस्ट उसको प्रॉफिट कह दो, इंटरेस्ट ना हो उसको प्रॉफिट कह दो, वो तो कमीशन। अब ऑब्वियसली ये तो काम कोई भी, मैं भी कहूंगी कि भाई ठीक है भी, मैं भी जहां से मुझे फायदा हो रहा है मैं वही करूंगी ना, तो फिर रिश्वत कैसे हुई, तो कमीशन हुआ। अच्छा एनी हाउ, बिकॉज दीज आर प्रिंसिपल्स, ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, ये लॉ नहीं है। जब लॉ का हिस्सा बन जाता है ना तो उसके बाद फिर पनिशमेंट वगैरह होती है। Anyhow, if we are doing a good corporate governance and fair financial reporting, जो भी reports हम बना रहे हैं ना, फिर उसमें principle follow होगा faithful presentation का, फिर true and fair reports जो कि होने चाहिए। Constructive relationships with shareholders, तो आपके shareholders भी खुश हैं, अगर अच्छी corporate governance है, shareholders के shares की market growth हो रही है, तो वो भी खुश हो जाएंगे। ठीक है? So now this is the end of the lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to start with this slide. When I'm sending you the slides, I am telling you all of these slides which are related to lecture 1. But do not consider that we have already winded it up. We are going to come back to this slide and we are going to start from this in our next lecture. So now this is all for today, students. Because we need to record. जब आप लोग क्लास में पढ़ लेते हो, फिर आप लोगों को दोबारा से अगर नहीं कुछ समझ आ रहा है, फिर आप लोग कि आपको जो मैं लिंक भेज रही हूँ उसको आप एक्सेस नहीं करके देखते, मैं आप लोगों को लिंक रोजाना भेज रही हूँ रिकॉर्डिंग की, आप रिकॉर्डिंग देख सकते हैं। ठीक है, ये कॉलेज के एलएमएस पर हो रही है रिकॉर्डिंग।